maiden.
Hello, and welcome to the Saladcast on Sunday, the 10th of March, 2019. I'm your host, Dan Train. Joining me today, Zachary Burgess.
Season 10.
And Robert Kemp.
10 hype.
The 10th of the seasons. We're very well seasoned.
We're only just ahead of Fortnite. Fortnite's caught us up pretty quick.
It's going to take us over. How does Fortnite have more seasons? Like, surely they have to last a year.
Because they ship through them so quickly.
Yeah, like
that's not fair.
They're like every couple months.
Yeah,
that's cheating.
Or barely even that.
The season is like a sports season or for some reason, a TV show season. But that's American, isn't it? Do we do things in seasons at all in the UK? Or is it just we're copying the Americans?
I suppose we get, technically you get season numbers for, Top Gear and...
Yeah, but that's copying Americans, right?
Yeah.
But they're not really, seasons.
They're series.
It's just, the year's worth of that show. It is technically a season, but it's only because they, for some reason, they decide to have a break.
Sort of, but Top Gear's on, twice a year. But in two short bursts, right? That's how they...
Yeah, but are those kind of separate seasons or the same season?
Separate, I think.
But it's surely football season. That's a real thing, right? Because it's actually depends.
That's a whole year. Well, most sports seasons are a whole, or most of a year, and then there's a gap that makes it a year.
Yeah,
the F1 season is all year while it's running.
But we don't do gaps. We just carry on
while it's happening.
Right.
Well, I suppose a season would be 3 months, really, if we were doing it properly.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, but that's not true of an F1 season. That's not 3 months, is it?
No. It's
or a football season.
9, or maybe even less than that. It's probably 6 active months.
Yeah.
Maybe 8. I don't know. It starts relatively soon. I know that much.
Anyway, we are definitely well seasoned. We've got salt and pepper all over us after 10 long seasons of the Saladcast.
I must now lick myself.
Oh dear.
I've got salt in my left hand, my right hand is pepper, and for some reason my elbows are Cajun.
Cajun elbows.
Cajun elbows.
Where's the tequila for your left hand? Or is it right hand?
It's in the pepper hand, unfortunately.
He's got it with the salt.
Yeah. Gone a bit awry. I need to just casually chuck the tequila in the air so it's not in contact with the pepper. And then...
Which hand are you going to use to chuck it?
I've got to chuck it from the pepper hand. But so I might sneeze into the tequila while it's airborne. But then as I raise my salt to my hand, yeah, exactly, because of the pepper. But then as I raise my salt hand to my face, my Cajun elbow might get cause some extra dispersal as well. But it's chili, so it's sort of Mexican. It'll probably be fine. Cajun tequila.
What's the difference between spice and seasoning, or is it the same?
Is it spice you don't really put on top of stuff? Spice you put in stuff?
Well, it's like salt is a spice because it's a mineral. I think that's probably one of them helpful.
Yes, but it's still a seasoning.
Yes.
Pepper must be a spice then, is it?
Yeah, I would say so.
I guess because it comes from plant matter.
But salt and pepper are clearly seasoning. There's no disputing that.
I don't think you spice with pepper.
Yeah, maybe
unless it's cayenne pepper.
Maybe it's some kind of different kind of flavour, spiciness. That who even knows what that even means?
Because you season with herbs.
Yeah, you do, right? You can season with whole stalks of.
Season with apple.
Yeah, you can.
Apple flakes.
You can't spice with apple though. You'd have to spice the apples to make spiced apples.
You spice the apple.
But what if you spice the apple and then season with spiced apples?
Then use the spiced apple to season something.
Spiced apple seasoning, yeah. You can, I don't know what the verb would be. I suppose it would still be seasoning because you'd call it a spiced apple seasoning for some reason.
Yeah, I can't really see this Venn diagram in my head. I can't work out the classification.
Spicing.
Spicing.
Or speasoning. Anyway,
yes, this is season 10 of the podcast.
We're getting spicy this season.
We're getting well spicy.
We're mixing it up. We're going to get a lot more confrontational and spicy.
Yeah, the spiciest salad lords. That'll be us.
Revelation, I hate you all. No. Spicy.
What have we got as our word class this season?
You reveal that immediately? Not even going to have that come up randomly during the season at some point.
Yeah, when someone does it in an intro statement for some reason.
Oh, I guess it's a little mystery. Then try and figure out what our opening words are.
Swan maiden. Find the Wikipedia page and you win.
And what's the status of our theme music?
Well,
you've probably already heard it in theory.
Yeah, I think. Well, I don't know if I'm happy with it, so I might change it before. Well, no, I haven't really got time to change it. I think it's got to be in this week's.
Right, you might hear some tweaks, listeners.
Yeah, over the next few weeks. Yeah. You've heard it, Dad, haven't you? Yeah, the rockiness. We're getting fighting fit.
Rocked out.
We're gonna have a spicy battle.
Spite.
So the theme is spice. We have to provide more spice in this year.
More spice, yeah.
We can't get too stale after 10 years. We have to spice it up.
Except it shouldn't be spice because now I'm going to have to change the theme word. unless
if only we'd thought of this before we started this podcast, then we would have had an idea.
I'm going to sprinkle some Swan Maiden on my potatoes.
Yeah, but that would give away to the listeners what the category was if we switched to spices.
Maybe we should come back to this next week and be like, all right, can I sprinkle whatever I say?
Fair enough. Well, speaking of seasoning, have we got any kitchen bitching going on? I haven't heard any for a while.
Because things have been functioning correctly, I guess.
Things have been working. Wow.
Didn't you have to get a new kettle?
No.
I got a new kettle.
Oh, yeah.
But I didn't have to, but I did. I got like a temperature-controlled one, which was kind of fancy. And is actually really good, but it's like quite small volume, right? Because it's just for making like 2 cups of coffee. Yeah, well, I use it to make 1, but you can make 2, probably more. But it's pretty cool because not only is it the right temperature to brew the coffee, it also means that you can drink the coffee straight away without waiting for it to cool down.
Slightly less burning.
It's doubly good, and it's quite cool looking, and it has like a goose neck to make it really nice to pour with, which is important for the pour over coffee method that I'm trying, which is actually quite straightforward. There's loads of videos online of talking about how fancy and artisan it is and how much skill it takes, and I'm like, is it really that hard? Like, maybe I'm screwing it up every time, but it doesn't seem that hard. But they're like having championships and stuff and competitions of how to pour. It's just literally like you pour in like a spiral, and then you pour in 50 grams, and then stop and wait for it to bloom, and then like 30 seconds later you keep pouring in the same fashion, and then you repeat that. You swish it around a bit to make sure the the ground up beans, what are they called? Granules,
I guess. Yeah, the
ground beans are actually covered, and there you go. And it tastes really nice.
I didn't go to when I was pouring it out over grind myself or ground or whatever. It's a mix.
It's definitely a word for that. That's completely slipped my mind.
The particulate
ground coffee.
The coffee, yeah. when doing the pouring, like I never bothered about that weight phase. It didn't seem like it made a huge difference to me. I remember reading it when I first did pour that way, but it's just like, nah, it's fine. So I need my coffee quicker than you suggest.
Can't wait.
You're not patient enough to wait 30 seconds for this mysterious blooming phase.
Bloom, no, yeah. Just filter my coffee.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah. Did you do because there's also a step where you're supposed to wet the filter paper so it's hot before you do the thing. So I do that too. And then I've got like a scales as well that I got for Christmas. And that's kind of cool because then you can get exactly the right measurements of everything every time, which is quite good. Makes it easy. And it has a timer in it that's quite easy. So you can time everything as well. So it's really.
I got a machine because all of this takes too long.
It does take a while, but it's like once you've done it a few times and you know what you're doing, it's pretty like,
too long.
You just do it the same way every time. I quite like the ritual of it. It's kind of cool. But yeah, a machine would be better, but I can't be. It's kind of annoying to get a machine.
I can't help. A lot of this was born out of bored tech workers who just wanted to spend slightly more time away from their computer.
Take as long a break as possible.
Yeah. I think it was bored Italian.
The slowest way to make coffee as possible.
Baristas, wasn't it? But yeah,
maybe. I mean, yeah,
they've got espresso machines, so they're sorted.
Yeah, that's how most. Sweeping generalization. That's how most Italian businesses work. It's like, let's do a few minutes of work, go down. Everyone goes down the coffee shop, leave the building.
Yeah, that's true. However, like if you go to a real Italian coffee shop, then you just have espresso and you neck it instantly and then leave. Yep. You don't hang around drinking coffee.
But you've got to walk to the place, then have an espresso,
that's true.
and then burn off your buzz on the way back. So you sit down at your desk and then you're just like, right, time to do some work. Let's go get a coffee.
I mean, you say that's the Italian way of working, is to like almost immediately go for coffee and then do that 3 times a day. But in my experience, that's also the London way of working. So
I thought, oh, well, yeah, I say sweeping generalization, but I heard it from people I used to work with who used to go to Italy, and it just used to be a bit more than 3 times. It would just, they wouldn't build up a stash in the office or anything. It would just be like, right, we're about to start a new thing. We'll walk down the coffee shop first.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, okay, I don't do it 3 times or more times a day, but maybe twice a day. So anyway, temperature control kettle, thumbs up, pretty cool. Although it does take longer to boil because it doesn't actually it has a sensor in it, but its control algorithm is like it's binary on or off, right? Whether so it has to like switch on and off a couple of times as it's coming up to temperature, right, to get it to the right point, which takes a while, but it works.
Is it quiet though? Does it pass Zach's quiet test? I suppose it's not really boiling. Is it making the noisy boil like the?
No, well, it never gets that loud if you're trying to go under 100 degrees, right?
No, so, but every kettle, as Zach tried to explain, every kettle's boiling somewhere, right? That's why it's
yeah, that's noisy. True. That's true.
Yeah,
I wouldn't say it's overly loud. I do have some bathroom bitching.
Oh. Do we need another alliterative statement for this?
Well, I was just wondering if you guys...
a little bit different.
I was wondering what you guys felt of this. You know the classic war of like, which way does the toilet roll hang? The classic
there's only one way.
We discussed that before on the
podcast. We've said that before on the podcast, right? And there's even jokes about it in the newspapers in SimCity 2000, I seem to remember.
Yep. The top must roll forwards towards you.
Yes, that's the correct way, right? And we all agree on that.
There has to be a gap between the hanging bit and the wall.
Yep.
We all agree. Okay, good. And it's a classic dispute, sort of a jokey dispute between flatmates or people sharing a house that one person puts it one way and then the other person turns it around to the correct way.
I don't even understand the other way around. You just
I understand it either. Okay, but at least I understand that some people might do it the wrong way, and then that's fine. It's a classic cliche, right? Fine. So my flatmate, he doesn't put it the wrong way and then I have to turn it the right way. What he does is, okay, when the roll gets to the end, right, and there's just a cardboard tube, right, on the holder, right, he doesn't take it out and throw it in the bin and put the new one on either the wrong way or the right way. Instead, he leaves the cardboard tube on the thing and puts the new one down on top like it's a kind of rolly, really unstable shelf.
I was about to say, I've done that. I've done it in a sort of more lazy fashion before, where I haven't taken the cardboard out and I've just used the roll and then just put it on the floor next to the bog.
But he puts it on top of the roll on the rolly holder thing every single time, not just like when he's feeling lazy, like every time.
Well, that is the laziness thing would be the trick, because it depends on what sort of toilet roll holder you have.
Does it roll quite well in that?
Well, no, it's like how easy.
It's not easy. Oh, it's super easy. It's not like there's no disconnection required. You just slide Like
some of the, you have those old like spring-loaded ones.
Yeah, it's nothing like that.
The spring out.
It's a super
like
basic
our
one
at home is just like a curve of metal, and when the old tube is there, you just slap it off.
Exactly.
Flies on the floor.
Or I think one of the ones we had, I think, in the downstairs bathroom here, where it had a magnetic clip, but the magnet was really bloody strong, so it was really annoying just to detach it.
So I feel like every other day I come in and there's an empty tube on the holder, and then a new toilet roll sitting on top like a shelf.
I mean, that just seems like that's going to, like, you're going to have a disaster at some point, and someone's going to waste a whole toilet roll by having it fall directly into the toilet.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, I mean, is it that close though? Because there's like,
it's pretty close.
Okay, yeah, we don't have a direct fall risk where we place our bog rolls.
Yeah, I think we sort of do. Yeah, it's a pretty small bathroom. Anyway, but yeah, it's directly next to the loo. Anyway, I was just wondering if that seemed weird to you guys.
I mean, I suppose it's I suppose it's somewhere to put it. Like,
but it's right on top of the actual holder that's designed for it. Where it would take 5 or 2 seconds to fix.
I mean, I can understand doing like what I do because I'm lazy. Is like, when I say I slap the previous roll tube off the holder, I literally just do that. Like, it goes on the floor somewhere. I don't care.
And then you put the new one on. Okay, well, that's better. I prefer that.
Until you like do a classic
tubes everywhere.
So you have a Home Alone incident where you're walking out of the bathroom and go, whoop, on the toilet roll.
I don't think you'd do that on a tube.
No,
you'd crush the tube.
Just collapse. But yeah, I don't know if I'm more or less lazy than with my approach sometimes, where I don't take the tube off the even though I've got like just an open one-sided like holder,
like me,
where I don't take the cardboard tube and I'll just put the roll down on the floor. Like I won't even do the resting on the holder. It's just like, no, it's just straight on the floor.
Well, the trouble with that is that if you've started the new roll, it's what you want it on the holder so you can actually use it.
Yeah.
If you've exactly ended a roll and it's just you've used up the last bit at just the right moment, that's fine. But if you've then started the new roll but then you still haven't put it on the hanger, you've just inconvenienced yourself.
Okay, what's the ruling on, like, okay, so you're the last person to use the last remaining sheet. So there's like you're the one that's whittled it down to the tube.
Yeah.
Like, what is is it actually on that person? Is like to do the replacement there and
definitely
then?
Be kind.
Or like, if you whittled it down to the last tube and there's no bog roll in the bathroom, like, are you like? Is it acceptable to just? Is it acceptable to just leave it in that state with no bog roll there?
No, because people don't check.
Yeah.
if you don't notice and you've already committed, then you're screwed.
Damn, I was kind of hoping that it was okay, but yeah,
I mean, I do try and check. Otherwise, you're in real trouble. But yeah,
always check your clock direction, which your holder is at.
I mean, it's kind of convenient when no one else is in the house, because then if something does go awry, it's like, well, it's awkward shuffle time.
Yes, I mean, if you're here by yourself, it's totally fine. Just walk around naked. Who cares?
With your shitty bum out.
Great.
I think I'm spending too much time with a cat.
God.
Okay, what's going on with the news?
Yeah.
News! Not a huge amount, I don't think.
Well, some.
There's some, yeah. Shortly after our last podcast, Nintendo did another direct.
Kind of a direct.
A very short one. Just to say, hey guys, Pokemon.
Actual Pokemon.
For real.
Pokemon. For real.
The actual game that we actually were told that was in development is in development.
It's not Pokemon Stars or whatever those rumoured names were.
Yeah, weird rumour at the time.
It's Pokemon Sword and Shield.
It's Pokemon Britain.
Kinda, yeah. Victorian big cog version of Victorian Brittany sort of thing.
So it is a mainline Pokemon game on Switch in 3D.
Well,
and
got in any more 3D than it was on the 3DS.
No, I suppose not. So it's fixed camera angle, so it ain't no Breath of the Pokemon quite. It's fairly conservative and traditional, but still, I thought it looked good. I saw people's comments seem disappointed. I was like, no, it looks
well, I think there's
Pokemon.
From what they've shown, I think that's part of the problem though. Like from what they've shown at the moment, it's just that there's nothing new to grasp onto yet, really.
Yes.
I mean, not new Pokemon, but there's nothing. We don't know anything more than it's going to be one of those games.
It's like they just kept saying we want to like come up with new inventive things and shake things up while keeping the old stuff, and it's just like, but they didn't show any new stuff. They only showed the old stuff.
The old stuff, yeah. I guess that's true. Pokemon hasn't really evolved that much.
No, and that's kind of the problem with it, isn't it?
I don't know. It does have
time.
It does have bigger layers now with its like Mega Evolutions and what are the M moves?
Yeah, but
Z moves. The
Mega Evolutions and Z moves were just like adding tiny little bits of, like you're stacking tiny little bits of stuff on top of the giant pile that already exists, or not even a giant pile. You're stacking a tiny bit of stuff on top of the tiny pile.
Can they even break with old stuff? Does that
well,
even
that's what we always say about
Pokemon?
the Pokemon, about every time there's a new generation, where it's just like, can you throw that all out and start over? Probably not, but that's kind of the problem.
Well, I mean, they sort of potentially had a chance to do that with the Let's Go's, right? Because
they can do it in that separate series.
They kind of did in that series,
but they didn't.
They didn't decide to do that into the main one. They didn't want to take a risk. Is mainly the thing, isn't it?
But they didn't they? With Let's Go. Let's Go is kind of a weird halfway house, whereas like they changed up the Pokemon catching, and the you see like, Pokemon in the world, cool. But the original battle system is still there for the trainer fights, right? They didn't really change how any of that works.
It almost seems like that was like a last minute decision on like the pushback that Pokemon Let's Go got,
right?
Because when they were showing it initially, and they were like, "Oh, there's no wild fights," and then people were like, "Oh shit, there's no fights. This is gonna suck. It's just gonna be like the mobile game. You're throwing Pokeballs at Pokemon endlessly, and it's totally pointless." And then they were like, "No, it's okay. There's trainer fights."
Well, like I don't think they could have done it if it was going to be a remake of Red or Yellow, I suppose. But that red bluish sort of line, like you'd needed gyms and badges from the gyms, so you needed a fight or something,
Well, yeah, kind of.
They needed some system.
It's not like Pokemon Go on the phones didn't have gyms.
No, but they could have. But that could have been the moment where they created something brand new. They could have gone off in a different direction.
Yeah, but then it would have still been a spin-off. Like
I guess
they could have done it, but then that wouldn't necessarily have still informed the main game. They could have seen that as like an experiment and not done anything in the main game still.
I talked to my colleague who's like a massive Pokemon Go fan for some reason, and I asked, and she has a Switch, and I asked her if she was excited for this new Pokemon, and she said not at all. So it's like there's this weird whole generation of weirdo Pokemon fans who don't actually interested in actual Pokemon.
Well, I mean, that was what Let's Go was
Let's Go was for,
right?
yeah, I guess.
Crossover.
Yeah, I guess that's right. So maybe she'd be into that. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, I don't know. It is a difficult one. It's like they could. I think there's always a chance that they can change things up, but they've got to perhaps have a different set of Pokemon that behave slightly differently, maybe, and then have a really weird mishmash battle system. Like, I don't know, perhaps the Alolan Pokemon in the last one should have been like, well, they're like the original Pokemon, but because they're Alolan, they don't just have different moves or different stats. It's like they actually behave differently around here.
I mean,
these are the edgy Pokemon. This is the Sonic the Hedgehog underground of Pokemon.
It's what we always said about how you could just make a Pokemon Tactics game.
Yeah,
it's like,
that's true.
Pokemon Tactics would be excellent.
Yeah, put the same moves, but on a grid system and with turn-based stuff.
That would actually be really good.
That'd be really good.
You could even do a Pokemon like XCOM thing, I guess. Maybe, I don't know, like the rabbits.
Oh yeah.
That would be more like an advanced version of Mystery Dungeon or something where you've got the team.
Advanced Wars Pokemon Edition.
But still, I'm still, as someone who didn't play the DS ones, I'm kind of excited even for a kind of traditional Pokemon game on Switch, personally.
Yeah. So. It's like after I skipped the previous ones on the 3DS, I was like, yeah, maybe I can come back to this one now that it's on a new system, and if they do something new and interesting, it would be nice.
Yeah, I saw there was some disappointment in the fact that they brought back random encounters. Actually,
yeah, because you wanted to see them. That was kind of cool.
Classic mechanic, though, isn't it? I mean,
I know, but I kind of it's strange. It seems it's become an outdated thing. The random
I don't really like. I never really liked. I remember thinking they were weird in Final Fantasy when I first saw. When I was a kid, I was like, what? Confused by it because I didn't know the convention. Yeah,
I sort of see what you mean. Yeah, it's kind of, and they kind of rationalized it a bit better in Pokemon than
with the long grass.
Yeah, you knew what you were getting into.
Yeah, and you could avoid it using the staying out of the grass and using the sort of the items,
deterrent thing,
whatever they're called. Could you do that in Final Fantasy? I guess you probably could.
Some of them.
Often you got a late game item that would reduce encounter rates or increase encounter rates.
Yeah, increase. There was an increase one in Pokemon as well, wasn't there? Like a lure.
Yeah, so that's always kind of been a thing as well. But most of that was just technological reasons, right? Random encounters existed because you couldn't render everything you wanted on screen.
Could do it. I mean,
Earthbound could kind of do it. Yeah,
kind of.
Yeah, they got there. But that's where it started. Like back in the NES days or something, things like that. They were just like, we probably can't do it in that way. And also to raise tension. It's a tension device.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah.
I don't know what we're gonna get. Oh, we've got that horrible 1% chance enemy that's gonna totally floor me right now.
I mean, the thing about Let's Go with the Pokemon that you could see on that was it then introduced, not really introduced, but it then kind of modified the idea of the chain system. Because this had existed in the regular games. In order to increase your chance of getting a shiny, you fight the same Pokemon over and over. And in the regular games, there was ways to do that. Like in some of them, you got a special item that would initiate a chain, and then it would kind of lock you into fighting the same Pokemon, so you wouldn't get the random, or you wouldn't get as many random other ones. And then in Let's Go, when you start a chain, because you can see the Pokemon, you just don't fight the ones that you're not chained on.
Which means starting a chain, so it's
well, you just fight the same Pokemon over and over, and the more times you fight the same one over and over, the higher the chance that the next one's going to be shiny.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
So that did exist in the handheld versions, and there was chain fishing as well. But the way because you could see them in Let's Go, that made that much easier. But is that too easy? Would they need to come up with a different shiny system if that was going to be the way they do it?
I mean, there are ways you can design around it now, right? Because that wasn't some of the random encounter annoyance from the originals just because of traversal, right? If you were trying to
go somewhere,
you didn't really want to fight all the Weedles on the way.
And also, and this is one of those things where it's just normal people and children don't care. Fighting random Pokemon fucks up your stats.
Does it?
Yes, because when you're fighting random Pokemon, every Pokemon you defeat adds a hidden value to your stat growth on your next level up. So if you fight a whole bunch of Ponytas, they give you stat points to attack or special attack. I don't remember. But then when you next level up, you'll have more attack on that level. So those is when you level up and you see those numbers go up. That's not actually just random or fixed to the same Pokemon. It's also influenced by what you've been fighting. Which basically means that when you play through one of those Pokemon games the normal way that you do, your starter Pokemon is technically shit at the end of the game because it's just got random stats rather than actually carefully constructed stats.
Right. Shit. Okay. So that would explain a lot. Yeah, I guess.
Yes.
Even if it's a small, influence, it still would be something.
I guess because there's no real benefit to being an all-rounder in Pokemon either.
No.
You want to.
So does that mean to train to fight other Pokemon trainers, you have to basically finish the game and then start trading.
If you want to, yeah, pretty much. You want to fly to the... Because the way it always used to be, it was like because you knew where certain Pokemon spawned, it'd be like you fly to the route and then you just grind on that one Pokemon and run away from all the other ones. Grind Ponytas forever or whatever, and that's why that sucked. But then when they eventually introduced like IV training or whatever in whichever game that was, Excel, well, no, I guess it probably was in black and white as well, where you can just... It's essentially you're just adding that value directly without having to do a fight via some other mini game.
Oh yeah, I remember the mini games.
So that could let you make specific Pokemon builds much easier. But like, is a mini game to do that better than just grinding random battles? Probably not really.
I don't know. I don't know, because it kind of... I mean, this whole, but perhaps there does need to be a better training mechanic, something that doesn't involve just going out and fighting. But, like, which wouldn't matter too much if the grind wasn't the same all the time, you know? It's like, because it's a proper grind in Pokemon. It's not all that entertaining.
Because even when you had those later ones with the mini games, it was like that only got you the stats, so you still had to grind XP to level up.
Right, yeah.
So you did the whole mini game grind, and then you just had to go like, where can I go to use XP share to the maximum effect with the most like best XP off the random encounters, and just kill them with a burner Pokemon, basically.
Yeah. Sort of where Pokemon starts to fall apart for me, all of that stuff.
Yes, the deep stats.
Yeah. It's not appealing in any way, really.
But it is kind of cool in some ways.
It's neat that it exists and that there is variation amongst it. It's not like level 100 Jigglypuff is the same as every other level 100 Jigglypuff.
It's weird how completely opaque it is, like compared to like a more complicated game would expose more of that and you'd know more. Whereas with Pokemon, it's like it's kiddie. But then the deep stuff is like a secret game underneath.
Well, the deep stuff is like an end game thing in a lot of the more recent ones, where it's like it used to be completely opaque and you just had to look it up on a wiki or whatever. But in these later ones, once the specific mini game training and all that stuff started happening, they made it slightly more transparent, but only like the super end game for the crazy people.
I was about to say, because I'm not even a Pokemon person, but I thought they were moving towards making some of that easier to see.
Yeah. That was like with those mini games and some of those other, they started showing those stats a little more directly that used to just be completely hidden. And even in Let's Go, you have like their level up system also has like kind of like the mobile one. It has like you feed them candies to level up specific stats. So it's not just based on, because there aren't really wild fights to grind off, of course, in that game. So if you want to get specific stats on your Pokemon in that game, you have this other system.
I guess I would want Pokemon the world to be to be fleshed out in a way that doesn't make every Pokemon seem like a fight hungry.
You want you want them to be like actual wildlife, not just a thing that attacks you occasionally.
Yeah, I think I want them to move more that way, and then maybe that's a bit more of the cartoon influence coming through. Where it's just like, oh, like a lot of things might run away from you, so you might actually have to put some skill into actually figuring out how to catch these things.
Yeah, that would be kind of interesting.
Like, I don't know, not everything has to be this caterpillar is really angry at this dragon. Here comes a fight. I guess what I'm saying is I don't think all Pokemon should be idiots.
No, yeah, maybe. I feel like we'll see what they actually come up with for new stuff that they keep claiming they're doing, but if it's still if it's still got the regular Pokemon systems, it feels like probably what they'll come up with new will be just some like layer on it in the way that the Z moves kind of were and the Mega Evolutions kind of were. Or maybe they'll just branch out and make a completely separate thing again, like with the stupid beauty contests back in whichever one that was. Gold? No, that can't be Gold. Well, maybe it was Gold and Silver. the stupid beauty competition.
They have like a crafts, obviously, because it's
it was kind of like that, where you had to feed your Pokemon special food and train them up in a specific way, and like all the normal moves existed in the beauty competition, but they had like a different set of stats for the beauty competition. So it's like Sing was way good for the beauty contest.
Okay, that's interesting. Puffs. So maybe what you want is actually just different disciplines, that it's not all about fighting, that like maybe there's a racing class.
Because they show in the really brief footage / trailers things that they showed the trainer walking out into what looks like a Pokemon stadium, but he's dressed in like a football uniform.
Right.
And then so people were like, oh, maybe there's like some kind of Pokemon football mini game or something.
Baseball.
That'd be football because we're in England.
Oh, what, like dog football?
Yeah. Except football, not American football.
Yeah. Oh, soccer.
Yes.
I suppose soccer is a little more Japanese, isn't it? And they're a bit more into that than they are their NFL.
Kind of.
They like baseball, yeah.
They do like baseball. Yeah.
So who knows what that actually means, or whether it was just like maybe that's just maybe that's just the outfit you can buy for your trainer, since obviously you can dress them up as usual.
What about some of the Pokemon? Was it the pet your Pokemon stuff from Let's Go or whatever?
Well, yeah, that's been in like various forms in the last 2 or 3 games, I guess. You had even on the 3DS, you had the stupid pet them and feed them weird foods, and then you had the like not X and Y, the 3DS one, Sun and Moon, had the like blow dry and brush the dirt off and all that stuff.
Like horse.
So I would guess that will probably be back in some form.
Just imagine getting on your Panitas and going for a horse racing. Like put them in Chocobo racing, but for Pokemon.
I mean, the brushing them off and stuff made more sense than the petting them. Maybe because you can just take anything into the petting screen and be like, I'm going to pet this fucking boulder or pet Mewtwo because it clearly likes it.
This Gengar.
Pet a ghost.
It's really handsy. Mr. Mime friggin' loves it.
Pet this slug made of lava, because that's probably a good idea.
Who knows what will happen when you touch and you
Yeah. Which bit do you stroke? Sure.
Missing no.
The eyeball. Right on the eyeball.
Yeah, right on the eyeball. Poke him in the eye. I mean, that was the what you might call the trick of that petting thing, was like finding out which part they actually like being petted on. It's like, where do you pet Mewtwo? Fuck only knows.
Just like people.
Yep. So there's the Pokemon. That's
Pokemon. Okay.
That's, meant to come out this year, I guess.
Yeah. Kind of cautiously optimistic about that. I think it could be fine.
We need to know a hell of a lot more.
Could be fine
at this point.
Which we will do at E3, presumably.
Yeah, at E3. So that'll be that. Cool. What else is going on? Yeah.
Labo VR.
Yep, that patent was true. The rumor was true.
It's happening.
Toy-Con 4 or whatever it is a card. Well, it's a Google Cardboard into which you slap your Switch in. Yeah. With lenses.
Not cardboard lenses.
No, like proper lenses. I suppose you couldn't construct those.
No.
Yeah, but like the interesting thing about that shot is that both of the Joy-Cons are still attached to the Switch, like in your face.
Okay.
So is there actually a game element to this, or is it just?
They've showed that it's got like this classic Toy-Con set thing where it's got like four or 5 different things you can make.
But then how do they work?
One of them is the more classic VR-looking visor thing, and then you've got one which is like looks like you've just got a bird stuck on your face.
Face bird.
So yeah, different games will probably require different movement solutions. So maybe there's just one where it's only looking around, and then maybe one of them you only use one of the Joy-Cons and then have some other kind of movement or something. Who knows?
I don't know if I'm comfortable with the idea of putting my Switch
on your face.
In a headset.
It's quite heavy.
Yeah. Also, the Labo. Well, I suppose now you said there's multiples, that makes it a bit more. But like the whole Labo cardboard thing, the whole build can't be that complicated unless Well, I don't know. It just can't be that. It's not as interesting as the others to me.
Well, I don't know. It depends what other parts they might be able to attach within it. Like if you still had the Joy-Con with the IR sensor attached to your face, you could put extra buttons on the outside of the headset. Poke your face.
I guess hold yourself like you're staring through a periscope or something, and there's buttons on the side of the periscope.
Yeah.
I guess I would hold the switch in place. We could just hold the controllers on your face.
Well, yeah,
attached to the switch still. Just be like, whoa.
I mean, that would basically be like a periscope.
Yeah. Steel Diver comes back.
Makes sense why it was in Smash Bros.
They did put out a remake of Steel Diver. Yes, that's weird. I don't know.
But the rumours are true all along. All the way back from E3 in 2017.
Well, yeah, there was like
E3 2 years ago.
It was like a patent.
Yeah, that patent
did the rounds. And got at.
Weird, but makes sense.
What's next?
Well, it's interesting. I suppose it's interesting just from the sense that they're continuing with Labo in some way.
Well, yeah, that too. They didn't just completely give up on that immediately.
No.
Well, we know what's inevitably weird. The design of Sonic the Hedgehog, right?
God.
Dude.
Obviously that was going to be bad.
I mean, in a strange way, I don't think if that picture... we're not 100% sure that picture is
I thought
legit.
We were, sure.
Probably.
I think that it's a very high probability, but I don't think the studio's actually come out and said this is the official image or anything. I think it's sort of a leak. Or at least that's how it started. Maybe that's evolved since then. But I don't think it's as bad as it could have been from those initial silhouettes. It's
looks like he'd be right at home in the Detective Pikachu movie, basically.
I mean, he kind of does, yeah.
Well, that's just it, is that the big Detective Pikachu ones seem to have done a better job of taking the proportions and then making them sort of CGI furry.
Because they've just made Pokemon, but they just have fur on them. Whereas this one, it's like they've made a design of Sonic.
Yeah, they changed Sonic, they didn't just
eyes,
take,
isn't it?
The eyes are not Sonic, but then Sonic's single giant eye with moving irises.
It's what would that look like in an actual real world?
I mean, it's properly weird anyway. But
I mean, how pronounced was the single giant eye in the original early designs of Sonic? Was there a big gap? At the bridge of the nose?
The earliest designs, I guess it would have, not the designs, but I guess the pixel art, you only can have so lower resolution on the gap.
Yeah.
It's always going to be one giant pixel in there.
Yeah, but there was a lot of cartoon art, wasn't there, around it as well?
The actual design.
The gap. Right. Was the gap always there, is my question, or has it got more pronounced over the years?
I think it has always been there.
I would assume that was probably in a design document where it's his eyes have to have this connecting thing because that's part of his design and you can't do it any other way.
But I'm totally fine with getting rid of that for the movie. That's fine. It's just they've made his eyes I don't know,
too realistic.
Too round.
Too much like regular ass eyes.
Yeah, so a lot of the original art, he's got the gap as well. But it gets lower depending on how much attitude he's showing at the time.
How much tude.
Well, you know the classic meme images of Sonic where whenever Sonic goes wide-eyed, and it's just it always turns into just an oblong.
Oh yeah. Well, this was the thing. STC Sonic the Comic, they basically used to draw him without the divot. It was just an
oblong.
Yeah,
I vaguely remember that.
First you say no, then.
But then here's the thing: it's not like that. All of the Sonic characters are single-eyed like that. It's Tails has always been
regular-eyed.
Duoed, and a lot of even some of the other ones get close to being the same sort of look but they are actually two-eyed in some cases.
Yeah,
but
I guess. But that just makes Sonic even more weird.
Oh yeah, Rouge is another one that's two-eyed. But yeah, it's I don't know. I suppose it's mildly makes sense from a realism point of view, maybe. But you're changing Sonic, man.
I mean, this movie can't possibly be good.
It can't possibly.
No,
I'm still going to see it. and hate it. But
Great. Yeah.
I'm gonna fuel this fire. But,
I mean, you've been fueling it for years.
No, yeah. Can't help myself.
Yeah, that's okay. At least they're Sonic Mania.
Also, I have to agree with all the comments about like those shoes are whack. That's not right.
They're whack. Yep. Especially when there are real life recreations of the proper shoes, like to some extent that look
and just
good.
Other red shoes that Nike make. If you wanted your product placement, that are just nicer and more Sonic-esque, even though they weren't trying to be. I guess they couldn't get that. Was it the Milk license that they had for Sonic 2 to make those like grind shoes? Was it Milk or was it
something like that? Yeah. I vaguely remember.
I wonder if that brand was. Never heard of it before.
Never heard of it before or after?
No, but it was apparently a real thing.
We're not into shoes, despite Rob's Twitter claiming otherwise.
Oh yeah. I had to put, well, it wasn't my Twitter, it was my Facebook. So I had to put a crap check up there. Crap check.
What
else is going on?
I was going to look up some other stuff.
Rob put his phone away, so we don't know.
Yeah, talk EA, because there's some EA stuff.
Oh, right. EA is not doing a press conference at E3.
Right. I mean, no, it seems to be very unfashionable to do anything at E3 these days.
Well, EA are at least turning up to E3, so they're only like 50%.
So does that mean they're not doing a media briefing anywhere in the world at that point? Or any kind of thing?
They claim that they're doing some kind of like.
I mean, they've got no fucking games, so who cares? I guess they do, but yeah. I mean, I don't know.
They're doing some kind of streaming event sometime before regular E3, sometime before where their press conference would have been.
Okay, fair enough.
And they want to bring in the influencers and the game. Whatever they were called, game makers.
Influencers.
No, what were those called? Game changers. There you go.
Yeah, that's it.
I'm trying to remember EA's dumb ran for that.
Influencers as in people on Twitch?
Yes. Then,
okay.
They have their game changers thing. They've done that a few times with like the last couple of Battlefields where they bring in semi-famous internet people and be like, well, what do you think about this? And they're like, I like it because I'm paid to be here.
I'm paid to like it. Yay. Great. Gotta love where things are going in terms of game journalism and stuff being sort of outmoded.
But like,
it's fake news.
The E3 situation. E3 is. We already thought it was becoming less relevant, and now apparently everyone else thinks they do.
Yeah, fully unrelevant.
Unrelevant.
And then apparently, another EA news.
Yeah.
Anthem is crashing people's systems.
Yeah.
Most prominently on the PS4.
This sounds bad.
Like full system level crash, right?
Yeah. Not just crashing the app, but crashing the whole system.
Which, isn't 100% unheard of in consoles. It's like I've had proper hardware lockups on Xbox and things as well.
But if that shouldn't really get past the quality gate, if that's... I don't know.
Well, who knows? Like, the problem
with Anthem is like, it sounds like it might be it might be one of those things that tends to happen more in longer play sessions. And that's the kind of thing where you're like, no one's going to test that. Who wants to play Anthem that much?
Well, that sounds like, that kind of crash sounds like one or two things. Memory leak, or they're actually managing to overheat the hardware somehow.
Yeah.
Both of which are possible.
Sure. You'd think if it was going to overheat the hardware, it would just crash the app, right?
It depends. Some hardware reacts differently to others. It's like,
I guess.
I don't know. Normally, like, I don't know, in PC land, we're used to, say, the processor hits a certain threshold, the motherboard knows to just shut down immediately.
Yeah.
Right.
Just turn all power off and go, nope, can't be dealing.
Or it could be like a combo where, like, the overheat causes the game to crash, but it's not a graceful crash and it takes the system down with it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and an overheat wouldn't. Well, yeah, it could be an ungraceful. Well, maybe there's just no decent thermal spec on whatever piece is like overheating. Maybe there's not enough sensor there, and that it reaches a certain point and it just causes the hardware to fail in an undefined manner.
Speculation, but yeah,
which is kind of what happened to the 360. It's not quite the same thing, but it's kind of what the Red Ring was about, or some of the other issues around Red Ring.
Yeah,
where like you could have overheat scenarios that would make things just go a bit weird. I don't know. I had that when one of my Xboxes got fixed, and it came back, and you could play Mass Effect for about 5 minutes before it entered an overheat scenario where the screen went orange checkerboard.
Lovely.
Yeah,
those things were screwed. How many times did you send your Xbox back?
Like 5 or 6, like loads.
Frickin' hell.
Well, yeah, my 360 was it was like first gen.
They should have given you a freaking new one after the sixth time.
I got a refurb at one point, so it's not my original one,
right?
That I've got now. It was replaced at some point, but I think it was replaced with a refurb first gen.
Yeah.
So it looks identical.
Still? All right. Yeah.
Yeah, and a core.
Yeah.
And in fairness, once they did that one's been fine. So clearly they got something right with those refurbs. But yeah, I don't know. I can't help but think maybe it was patched in. Like it could be anything at this point, because don't forget we're hearing about this a little bit after launch. It's like it didn't come out through the beta weekend. It didn't come out through.
I thought it had though.
Oh, did it?
Maybe it had with certain people or something.
Maybe it's only blown up since it's been on full launch and more people are putting their hands on it, and the scale of the problems become apparent.
Crash might have been a more recent one.
Oh, okay.
Like it might have some patch somewhere might have done something to make it worse, at least.
Yeah. I hear they've been trying to work through some of their connectivity and loading pause issues, and maybe it's like related.
So yeah, Anthem. Not going too well. Meanwhile, Apex Legends is hit like 50 million players or something.
Yeah, absolutely killing it. Well, to the point where I think Fortnite are paying attention, and there's rumors that there's going to be like a respawn mechanic for its squad modes, just like Apex has.
Yeah. All games are going to be the same. Well, either they'll be Dota or they'll be Fortnite.
Well, Fortnite has that weird thing that only they can do at the moment, which seems to be they can develop things faster than anyone else, and they'll just put it in the game faster than anyone else. Or Apex comes out with this mechanic, and it's like less than a month, and they're already sitting there going, "Yeah, no, we're going to do that too."
It's like because they can. Are like, Snapshot, you've got stories. I'm going to put stories into Facebook and Instagram and WhatsApp.
Yeah.
Bye, Snapchat.
I never really understood that story thing anyway.
Yeah, it's stupid. It makes kind of sense on Instagram, I think, but otherwise not.
It just shows up on Facebook Messenger everywhere. Like there's just an extra giant play button that sometimes has a person's face on it. And you press it and all it does is show you a post they made. And it's like, well, I could have seen that on Facebook.
Yeah.
Your main platform.
Yeah, but they don't want you to only use Messenger. They want to get you into Facebook so that they can
I'm already on Facebook. I don't.
Yeah, but you're looking at Messenger, and it's like you're only looking at messages from your friends. You're not looking at all our dumb bullshit advertising. We've got to get you over so that you're looking at the stupid news feed, so that we can.
I'm already posting crep checks on Facebook.
Check. See, that's where Instagram stories are good. You could post a crep check every day,
pretty much, or an equivalent one of those.
Because they expire, I think that's the thing about them, isn't it? Or they, yeah.
Oh, do they?
They're ephemeral. Yeah,
they actually get removed if you don't. Interesting. Okay.
Anyway, I think that's the idea of them. So you don't feel
so bad. That is okay. That is a point. But then why is it? I don't want it in Messenger. Go away.
Exactly. They're just shoving it everywhere.
Yeah.
Cool. Anyway, features and stealing features and putting them in your game.
That's what every developer does, in fairness.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, fair enough.
Big old chain of thievery.
What else going on?
Google's controller for its upcoming console platform, or some design documents thereof have leaked, and I don't know. That thing doesn't look good. Like, I don't know. There's no representation of what the actual console is or does, or none of that stuff. But
it doesn't sound like anyone really knows anything.
No, I mean, the only lead we have about there's two things we know. For one, it's called Yeti, or at least that's their project name. Yeah. And the other is the fact that Google trialed streaming Assassin's Creed through a browser.
Yeah, sure. Fine.
Those are the only two things we've got to go on.
Which may be unrelated to the Yeti project, potentially.
Potentially, yeah. And now we've got this controller, which looks like a blocky
mess.
It looks sub-Ouya, That's what we're talking about here.
But I don't know. I don't know.
It could be an early design dock, right? Yeah, it could be something like the Steam controller, as Zach mentioned before we went on air. It's like it could be something really subject to change before it actually comes out. I don't know, but if that's what even if that's what they started with, I have my concerns that's they don't get this space.
Well, if they don't, then they'll fail.
Yeah,
it's fine.
It's not like
I doubt they're going to put out a crappy controller. Google, I think it's.
I mean, let's maybe, but let's not forget that there was always the rumor that Apple were doing this as well, that were researching this space and were planning on doing something, and then kind of decided against it eventually.
I mean, for years, people wondered whether Apple would buy Nintendo, right? Back before the Wii.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that never happened. Which is good, I feel.
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's all worked out for the best, for the most part.
They always bring on someone at their press conferences, Apple, to show off gaming on the Metal, or whatever, the latest on the, amazing 3D graphics you can get on an iPad or whatever. So they always try and court gamers, but I feel like they actually really don't care about gaming. They just it's like a token thing where it's like, look at our partners, they can do these cool things on our hardware, but they don't actually care. Yeah. Which maybe that's good. I don't know.
So here's what you can achieve now, which might be why maybe they're paying Bethesda to make that Elder Scrolls thing. I don't know.
I think they're like Apple's philosophy is like they make products for a kind of imaginary hipster where their life doesn't involve video games. You know what I mean? It's like the computer for your life, and in their mind, their customer is always just going out for drinks or something, and not playing video games. Do you know what I mean? It's like an imaginary life,
much work,
or going running, or doing exactly. Like if you think about the people in their adverts, they're not really.
Yeah, have you seen that new Apple Watch ad? While you're on it the other day,
no,
even Gnome looked at it and thought they're over-egging this a bit.
Oh God. No,
it's basically the sort of indoor skydiving
right,
tunnels.
Yeah, I do.
Basically, someone running just casually just flies into the sky and goes into an extended skydiving spinning sequence, and then lands in a very pretty lake, and you get an underwater shot that looks a little bit like anime for a second, and then he comes up and it's just you can free yourself with an Apple Watch or something. It's exactly. Oh God,
what a load of bullshit! But that's what they're aiming for, right? And you have to admit that it kind of works in an annoying way. You do kind of think to yourself, actually, I've got the iPad and I've got the phone and I've got the computer, but if I had the watch and I could do all of this stuff.
In fairness,
no, you don't need that.
I would be lying if I said I wasn't a little bit.
I know, everyone.
Attached to that, simply because I'm buying into Samsung land at the moment. Yeah. I've got my Samsung screen, I've got my Samsung phone. I'm going to... I've got a Galaxy Watch on order,
Yeah, exactly. There we go.
I'm getting in there.
But none of that.
I needed the watch. Did you hear the thing about Microsoft Band?
Yeah. That it'll fall apart.
Or not just that. They're super killing it.
Yeah.
They're getting rid of the sync service. You won't even be able to store your runs anymore. So it's oh great.
Anyway, my point is these lifestyle electronic brands or whatever aren't that into video games.
No, they don't give a monkeys. It's just another back on which they can piggy.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny for Samsung because they make TVs which people use to play video games as your one.
Yeah,
exactly. They're probably one of the primary ways to play video games is on
a TV. Yeah, right? I'd imagine.
And yet TVs manufacturers don't seem to care about video games.
Apart from Sony.
Sony have tried, haven't they? They really, really have tried over the years. But even then, their gamer-focused screens have always not been great. For some reason. Do you remember was it the PlayStation-ish TV they put out? Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah, for PS3.
I feel like that was more of they were coming at it from the angle of cheapness rather than game quality.
Yeah,
like, you want a low refresh rate or whatever for an actual gaming.
Well,
PC,
I think
whereas that one was just cheap.
It was sort of middling in a number of ways. I want to say that they did manage to get the latency down a little bit on their screens, but at the cost of fidelity. Like it didn't go both ways, unfortunately.
And it also wasn't a good time to be making a new TV, considering how the standards were shifting at that time.
Well, yeah, and their TV business was, as it turned out, was really suffering at that point in time. I guess it was one of those desperation moves, right? It's like they saw their TV business was starting to slump for a moment, and it was like, what do we do? What do we do? We've got E3. We can put like a TV on at E3. Maybe it will sell. Well, and then they just got good at making OLEDs, so saved them a little bit.
More news?
I don't think so.
No, okay.
That's all I got, really.
Yeah, that'll do it. It's time for what you've been playing.
Games!
Zach, what have you been playing?
Well, two relatively important things, I guess.
Relatively
important in the grand scheme of games.
Yeah, I guess.
It's all relative. I played Dirt Rally 2, I guess, for a while.
Yeah.
Not all that much because it's a hassle. Which is really the main disadvantage of that, the whole steering wheel situation. It's cool, but it's kind of a pain. We're like, I have to attach this whole rig to my desk, and I have to get a chair that doesn't have wheels on.
Yeah, okay. So, in my case, I get that, right? Because I've less time than I have done over the last few years to play games at the moment. So the process of rigging up the wheel, getting settled, moving a couch into a position where I'm not going to slide across the floor on my chair, really getting all that, and then setting all that up takes away from my game playing time. Which is something you're not short of.
Well, the actual problem is it combos with the fact that I can't withstand using the wheel for like more than an hour.
Oh, right.
So it's like if it wasn't like I'm going to set this up, but then basically have to put it away again instantly.
Yeah,
that kind of also negates it in a different direction.
Okay, that makes a bit more sense. So what is it? You just get a little bit.
Just too tense, I guess.
Oh, okay.
You're
gripping too tight.
Yeah, it's too hardcore. Can't withstand that much physical stress.
Sidewinder still holding up then?
Yeah, it still works.
Sweet.
It functions the same, and that can basically be said about the whole of Dirt Rally 2. It pretty
Is
much
the game any good?
Pretty much exactly the same as Dirt Rally 1.
Right.
So they didn't fuck up the physics.
Hooray!
Good.
How's the co-driver,
but with more tracks and cars, right? Or
it's basically got the same amount of tracks as Dirt Rally did when it finished. So once it had got out of early access and got all its extra stuff like Sweden and Finland and all those, it's got the 6 environments equivalent to Dirt Rally 6.
Right.
And each with 2 ribbons.
Each with 2 roads, yeah.
It's almost a shame you can't just combine the games into one game.
Well, you can, but it's DLC.
Oh, what? Wait, so the first of the seasons has been announced to be basically Germany, Monaco, and Sweden. So the 3 of the 6 that were in Dirt Rally, they're already bringing back in the first batch. But new ribbons or the old ones?
They haven't specifically said, but from the footage they've showed of Monaco, it looks like the same one, but that's Monaco.
I have to admit, there was some stuff from... so is there like a road rally already in the game? There's
Spain, so you get the tarmac there.
Does that look a lot like Germany?
Not really, because it's
Spain. Because I'm pretty sure I've seen this. Yeah, I might have seen...
I think they have shown a little bit of Germany
and
footage.
It looks a lot like Germany from the...
There's also Poland, which is similar in Rally 2.
Oh, okay.
Tarmac and fields.
Yeah, maybe that's the one I'm thinking of then.
There's not that much tarmac in that Poland rally. It's more dirt.
There's specifically a bit where, like in the Germany one, there's like lots of like right-angled turns with like...
Yeah, with hay bales.
And the bit with the plane, I suppose, you drive around.
Yeah, some of that is similar in Poland. They have the hairpins and the chicanes where it's hay bales are not on the road or whatever.
Right, yeah, so maybe that's what I've seen.
But yeah, the physics is basically the same as far as I can tell. I haven't really got that deep into it. I've only really been doing the 60s front wheel drive shipmobiles. So I haven't really got into Group B or anything to see how much that might or might not be different. I did do there was a couple of dailies that required you to use rear wheel drive, and I had a couple of, because I've got the deluxe edition, but we'll get into that in a minute. I had a couple of rear wheel drives that I could use for the dailies, and I was like, I'm just, the dailies just give you cash, so it's like you might as well do them. But then I was like, I've completely forgotten how to drive rear-wheel drive.
No, right, yeah.
So I couldn't even tell whether the physics was the same for them because I was just so bad at managing it at all. I just couldn't even tell.
The bit I'm most interested in with the physics is the thing I had the biggest problem with in the first game, which is the roll.
Well, yeah, that's the thing that was the thing that they fixed in Dirt 4 while they screwed up most of the other physics.
Right. So
the weight of the cars.
So that roll has moved. The good roll has moved over onto Dirt Roll's good. Dirt 1's good. Everything else.
Yeah, I would say probably. I haven't really rolled that much to be able to tell. Of course, I've only been playing with the shitty slow cars, so I haven't had that much of an opportunity. But I definitely did roll it. There was so far out of the rolls I've had, I might have said one of them seemed weirdly not good, and some of the other ones were okay.
They always felt so sudden to me in the first day.
Yeah,
you'd go from absolutely fine to be suddenly rolling incredibly fast, in an instant. And it's yes, that could happen, I guess, depending on the thing you hit. But often the thing you hit didn't look like it should have created that amount of roll. They just seemed way too eager to go.
That's more a collision problem than a roll problem necessarily.
Yeah, potentially, but it's it all fed back into itself. The cars always felt way too eager to roll.
I did have a problem where, and I couldn't. This was one of those situations where I couldn't tell whether it was what I did or whether I was just doing a bad run or whether it was some weirdness with physics that I wasn't accounting for. But there was a run where I think I must have been in the US track, so it was gravel or whatever. And it was a run where it was. I don't think it was all dry, so it wasn't wet. But it was two stages, and one was long and one was short. No, wait, they were both short. They were both short stages, and because of that, I was like, I'll change the tire compound because that's a thing you can do now. You can have soft tire compound, which theoretically gives you more grip for a shorter period of time, how tire compound works. So I was like, I can try this out because two short stages, I won't have any. I can use the soft compound that will wear out quicker because that's two short stages. Good opportunity to try it. And then on that, when I went into there, I just there was a corner regular sort of free grade corners where I rolled over. I turned in and just roll out.
Oh, weird.
And I was like, have I got too much grip? It's am I trying to slide on the gravel and my tires are just digging in that much that it's just literally just flipping me?
I mean, that shouldn't happen.
Not really, no. But I couldn't tell because it's just that was the only variable that I thought that I changed, but maybe it was some other track condition thing happening as well.
Yeah, that's straight. That sounds weird.
But yeah, that was slightly strange. And then the track degradation thing and all that.
Yeah.
Which I realised has a slight problem with that system, which is... Yeah. Well, actually, it's a slight problem of that system combined with the weird difficulty settings. You choose a difficulty setting, but it's on a slider between 1 and 100. And it says medium is sort of between 60 and 75, but what the fuck does that mean? And where are you going to put yourself on this 1 to 100 scale on skill level, I guess? So that's the sort of problem with that. But that feeds into the problem with the track degradation, which is that if you haven't got your difficulty setting right, because how could you? How could you possibly know? Then you're either going to see perfect tracks every time or completely destroyed tracks every time, because you're either going to be winning all the time and therefore going last and therefore getting the most fucked up track, or you're going to be losing all the time and therefore getting the clean track. It's you don't get an opportunity to see all of the different states of the track, really, because you're either going to be winning or losing, and that automatically puts you on the good or the bad track.
So you find, so how do they handle? Does the bad track noticeably handle differently, and is it consistently the same bad?
I haven't been able to tell that yet because I haven't really driven the same track enough to be able to tell. But basically, when the track's all degraded, the car just bounces a lot more. You can constantly feel it every time you're in a corner, it's like you're getting that bounciness where you're like you're having to extra correct,
right?
To compensate.
So you're going to be on the edge of grip far more often.
Yeah, so you definitely can feel it.
Hmm.
It's just like that's all you're going to feel,
right?
You don't really get an opportunity to. It's like the first track of a new season, you get the clean track because it hasn't ranked your positions, and then every other track after that, once you've won, you get shit. You get the constant shit. So yeah,
I mean, are you finding it like in the same way? Like I don't know, Dirt 1 was hard to win.
Well, that's the trouble with this difficulty slider. It's like I came in and I was like, I heard someone on the internet say who I would say was quite good at sim racing-esque things. He was like, I'm getting destroyed at 75. And I was like, well, okay, 75 is still medium, so maybe I'll go to like the low end of medium. So I set it down into like the 60s, and it's that like, this seems too easy. Except when it's not. Except it's got that classic Dirt problem where it's like, occasionally there'll just be a stage where the CPU keeps up with you for no apparent reason. So I don't know. I feel like they really should have, because they kind of did it in Dirt 4, they should have just had like a thing where it's just like, just race this stage and we'll rate your skill level based on your time and how much you crashed and that kind of stuff. Because they did do that at the start of Dirt 4. They had like, this is your sign up race or whatever, where it's like, show your skills to the sponsors and
and then upload it to YouTube.
Yeah, then upload it to YouTube, except not. But yeah, I feel like they really should have done something like that for Dirt Rally, because it's when you've just got a 1 to 100 slider and then you just have no fucking idea what you're doing. It's just like, what? How are you even meant to know how to set that? And I couldn't find. I don't think you can change it after you've started a championship or whatever.
Oh right, well that's
which makes kind of sense.
Yeah,
but like
lock in at least.
But it's then you're doing a whole championship. Where it's like I finished the first one I started.
Oh right, not just a single rally.
No, the whole 6 rallies, 4 stages on each.
Yeah, which is quite long.
Yeah. So yeah, there's that. I got the deluxe edition because I saw it for as expensive as the regular edition would have been because it was discounted. Okay. So I was like, well, that makes perfect sense to get that then.
Fair enough. Yeah.
So I'm going to get the extra DLC cars and tracks in the 2 seasons.
Oh, is it actually got season pass in the deluxe version?
Yeah, it's built into the deluxe, and you start with extra cars or whatever. Although the starting with extra cars thing is weird because, like, I kind of feel like I need to go watch some videos of other people starting the game to work out how it even works. Because in the deluxe edition, you start with like 5 cars. And then it gives you ones from like quite high up. So you've got the Fulvia, the 1960s. You've got like some 70s and 80s rear wheel drives. You've got a Group B. I think you have a Group A maybe. So you get like a selection of cars.
So you could go right to the
so you could go to the hardcore shit.
Yeah.
But then so that's obviously the deluxe thing. But you start with no money. And then I was like, okay, so what if you don't have the deluxe edition? What does it start you with then? Do you start with money, so you'd have to buy one of the cheap cars? And just because I've got the deluxe edition, it gets rid of the money because you've already got all these cars.
Or does it just give you one of the...
Or does it just give you one of like the starter
the 60s cars? Yeah.
I don't know. It's weird. And also, apparently, for some... I think because there was an early access period as well for some other kind of pre-order. Because they were having problems with their online connectivity during that period, they just gave a lot of the people who were online during that time like 1 million credits.
No.
And people were like, don't do that. That's fucking my progression because now I've just got all this money and I don't need to earn the right to buy all these cars. So I don't know. It's weird. The progression and that kind of side of it is still strange. But apart, the physics is good. It still has the kind of Dirt 4-esque version of like the services or whatever, where you've got the option between like quick fix or replace, rather than the stupid sliders from Dirt Rally 1.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah, that was a cool system.
And you can choose how many spare tires to take and all those little bits and pieces. And it's still got the full set of, once you unlock it, you get the unnecessarily detailed sliders.
Yeah.
Wheel bias and all that.
The advanced mad stuff.
So yeah, it seems like basically just more Dirt Rally. And, that's still pretty good.
Yeah, I'm a little bit disappointed from not because it sounds like the changes they've made sound sensible.
Yeah,
but Dirt 4 had hints of things going in a more interesting direction than what we've ended up with.
Yes, the procedural tracks, basically.
The procedural tracks, it was an interesting idea. It was clearly underbaked.
Yes.
In Dirt 4, but man, that's the right call, I think, for a series like this.
Yeah.
And it's a shame that hasn't turned up, and they're just going down the DLC route to sell tracks.
I mean, maybe DLC Season Pass 2 will be like procedural versions of something. Like,
maybe.
This is the procedural Spain environment where it can create a Spain track, but it's procedural rather than... That would be cool, but I don't think that... I reckon we're probably just going to get the other half of Dirt Rally 1.
Yeah.
Which is cool as well, I guess.
But, I don't know, I'm a bit... that annoys me a bit in itself. That if those ribbons are just the Dirt Rally 1 ribbons, that will suck because then you're paying for something that the fans of the series are likely going to already have.
Yeah. I mean, I did see someone commenting online where it's just think of Dirt Rally 2 as being reverse DLC for Dirt Rally 1. Where you're getting 6 more new environments, except it's in this new game, and you're having to reinstall Dirt Rally 1 into it afterwards.
Yeah. I mean, I'm surprised they just didn't... I'm a little bit surprised given that... it stings a little bit given that Hitman 2, when they came out, and they were like, oh yeah, if you've got Hitman 1...
Yeah, it just is all in there.
All your content will come across into the new engine. No biggie.
Yeah.
It just feels like that would have been a great... Yes, don't sell it to us again. Logical. Yeah, kind of thing. We've already got that. Don't let me buy it again.
And it's also slightly sucks because the selection of environments they went with in Dirt Rally 2 is not great. Well, basically, there's no snow for a start, which is why they have to bring back Sweden.
Right.
But it's mostly gravel. You've got US, which is gravel. You've got Poland, which is some tarmac, but mostly dirt roads, which is functionally equivalent to gravel, really. You've got Australia, which is gravel. You've got New Zealand, which is gravel. And then you've got Spain, which is tarmac, and Argentina, which is gravel.
Right, yeah. I mean, it's the core of Rally, but...
Yes. But, well, compared to Rally 1, you had more tarmac, I guess, and you had ice and snow and...
Yeah, you had the interesting changing tarmac of Monaco.
Yeah. I haven't actually played Argentina yet. That's the big one, I guess, for this set is because
the potential for the most
interesting. You've seen the classic clip footage from 1980s rally in Argentina, driving through those fucking rock fields, with the spectators crammed in all over the place.
Yeah,
basically do that. I haven't tried that yet, so we'll see. Although 1960s car not going to be a problem, probably.
I've also this is a Dirt 1 thing as well. Even if they didn't go the procedural generation route, I think their treatment of the stages being just 2 ribbons that you then split into either 2 big stages or 4 little stages and with reverse variants.
Yeah,
it's and the number of times you end up seeing those over the course of your campaign in Dirt Rally 1, it never felt enough. If you're doing the Rally of Greece,
yeah, I feel like they should have just limited it to never having the reverse and the same one in the same set.
Yeah, and then have enough stages that you can pull that off.
Well, it wouldn't have been necessary. I don't think it was necessary to ever have a 12-stage rally. They could have just had 6 be the maximum, and then it would never have to have the reverse and the regular
as long as they were all unique.
Yeah,
6 unique stages would have been fine.
I guess 4 would technically be the maximum if you were going fully unique rather than the 2 cut in half.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. The quality of the stages was higher, but there is a point where a rally game needs to be about more stages.
Yeah,
hence the procedural thing being compelling. It's I don't know, having to. It got tiresome for me, honestly, and I didn't get nearly as far as you did with Dirt Rally 1, and I didn't spend all that much time on some of the later, because we were playing it since early access. I didn't spend all that much time with some of the stuff that came out later.
Yeah, but that should have been where it did get new for you.
Yeah,
for a while.
But it sort of didn't. At Finland, I played a few times and I've done this. Oh, now I'm doing it again. As much as I quite like Finland, with it, fast and jumpy and difficult, and, it was a cool stage. But I don't know, it just lost something compared to I always look back at games like Colin McRae Rally 2 and 3. Those stages were simpler. There was more of them, which made the rally feel complete. When you were doing Rally Australia or something, and you've got that one stage that's basically just a straight road next to a pipe, and it's it's not a great stage, but it stood out as this is the one weird one in this thing, or here will be a stage where you're going through a farmyard for a brief moment, and it's the stages all had a thing, that separate them out that you just don't get because there's so few in Dirt Rally. I don't know. It's bothered me. It has always bothered me with this new direction, and they haven't fixed that here.
I think that's more or less it for that Rally 2. I really haven't played it that much because it's a hassle.
More next time.
And because there's been other things to do. Well, not that much. I don't remember if there was anything else I need to say about it. So never mind, let's move on to the other thing that I played just this weekend. And also we made a video of, which should be going up very soon, hopefully.
Oh, cool.
Well, if I can sort myself out. Yeah.
Or just give me the files and I'll do it.
Okay. Maybe let's see how that turns out. I don't know. We made a video of, and I played a bunch of the alpha test of Satisfactory. They opened it up for an alpha weekend. For everyone. Well, for everyone who signed up for the alpha at any point. They've been letting in small amounts of alpha testers up to this point, and now they just let in everyone who signed up for alpha, and then in about 2 weeks it'll actually go into early access on the Epic Store. So I guess they're you'd say they're kind of done with engine testing, if you to a point
call it that angle.
They've got a fairly solid core.
Yes, it seems to be functional, pretty good for. Well, it seems to be functional in a way that you'd expect of an early access title nowadays, where it's just it's not really early access; it's just incomplete.
Yeah.
So you build factories and shit, and you connect them with conveyor belts and
the belts,
and do that factory thing. Make stuff out of other stuff, and then make more complicated stuff by feeding that into more machines. Except not that much, of course, in the alpha, because you don't get that far up in territory.
You still managed to make some pretty big operations.
Yeah, it does seem to be a matter of the resource numbers aren't that high, I wouldn't say, but it just generally takes up a lot of space. You need space to work with. You can only cram those buildings together so close because you need to account for the space that the conveyor belts need to curve, and the splitters are quite large, and so you need to leave space for them, and power lines need their own space. So even if you try and cram things in, like I did with my main factory building that turns up at the end of that video, it's you can only cram things in so small. It's much easier to just it's kind of doing it the way I was doing at the end of that factory, where I was trying to put everything in a building and building very precise conveyor staircases and stuff. Almost feels like that's the wrong way to play that game. It feels like you should just chuck shit everywhere and just join the belts up however, because you can just raise and lower them to have them cross over and all that stuff. And because it's automatic, the way the belts just connect point to point, it allows you to do that.
So you can just slap something together.
Yeah.
However, you put it in Zach's hands and he'll make something neat.
Yeah, so you have to make things neat. Precise. Look at the numbers and work out how many of each building you can run off one resource line.
Neat.
But it's pretty cool, I guess.
I gotta say, I'm not into these factory games, but this looked way more impressive than I was expecting.
Oh, cool.
Yes. It also looked not just
they've done a decent visual job on it as well. Yeah,
and even Kippers was infused.
Yeah,
me and Kippers played some co-op, quite a lot of co-op. Although, it's hard to tell with Kippers, I guess, how enthusiastic he actually is, or whether it's just something to stream. He did stream it as well a little bit.
I mean, I don't. One of the more the cooler things was the truck system. I do like the idea of the truck system.
Yes, the truck system is kind of one of the coolest things you can get to in that alpha weekend, which will have finished by this podcast goes up for alpha people. The truck system you can build trucks and you can drive them around, and they have the storage, and that's a good way to explore, I suppose. But then you can also set up truck stops to load and unload them automatically. But then
and stock terrible sandwiches.
Yes, obviously. But then the way you actually set the trucks to go between the stops is you basically just turn on a recorder and you drive the path yourself, and then it records your actual the route you took, and then you can just set the truck to do that, which is pretty cool.
Which means it can go over any terrain, and you don't have to worry about pathfinding and all that jazz.
Yeah, you don't have to build a road even or anything. You can just providing you can drive around all these rocks. Well, to a certain extent, because the recording is a lower resolution of your inputs anyway, so it's possible that you could record something that you could do, and then the AI would then get stuck. But but it's still really decent. You can make some quite fancy transport systems with that.
Although, as we sort of touched on in the video, I really wanted. You haven't experimented yet with how running multiple trucks on the same route might work.
Yeah, whether that would be possible,
or if they just crash into each other.
Yeah, whether there is any kind of collision avoidance.
I really want to see your experiments on that.
Yeah, I might have to try that when I get home before the alpha ends.
Oh yeah, of course. It'll be on early access in a couple of weeks.
Well, I mean, that's the thing is
you have to buy it at that point, I guess.
There's that. But also, I was just had a ridiculous conflict about whether I want to get in on this. I was seriously considering just skipping the alpha because I was just this might be
to spoil it.
Well, that, but also if I'm going to take a weird stand against the Epic Store. And then I go into the alpha weekend and it appetizes me for it, and then I definitely have to wait more than a year because of the exclusivity for it to maybe come to Steam. It's I don't want to appetize myself to this too much, so I was sort of thinking about skipping the alpha, but I was fuck it, I guess. Kipps is playing it also. That gives me another reason to go in there, and
also it's free for a weekend.
And also it's free, yes. Not that, I mean, if I had got into the regular alpha, that obviously would have been the same thing. But yeah, then I'm so I was okay, I'll go to the alpha, but I'm not going to pre-order it yet. Not before it even comes into early access. I'm not going to pre-order the early access, and so I'm still undecided about getting in on that. But so partially, obviously, I have been appetized. I went in there and saw it. I was like, oh yeah, this is definitely good. Or I can see where it's going, or I think I can see where it's going, or I can see where it might go, I suppose, because it might not even exist at that.
There's a lot of there's a lot of possibilities that still we don't know where this is going to go.
Yeah, not exactly.
Yeah,
but then I think in reality, the decision of whether I get into the early access or not will be based on Kappa. If she buys it, she's very enthusiastic about early access. She just basically doesn't care about early access games. She'll go in with whatever. So if she's enthusiastic enough to put up with the Epic Store and go in that way, then I'll probably just get dragged along.
Yeah. I can see that.
Because she missed out on the alpha.
Ah, right.
She thought she signed up, but apparently she didn't. I think she signed up to get the newsletter, which would have announced the alpha, but I think she missed the survey.
Right,
the hardware and that kind of stuff.
And that was the key part.
And that was the thing that actually triggered the alpha invites.
Fair enough.
So that may increase her enthusiasm to buy it.
Yeah, because there's a bit of FOMO going on.
Yes, exactly. We'll see. We'll see whether I get on that.
Yeah. It is neat. And who'd have thought this have come from the
the Goat Simulator people?
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
It's amazing that this thing exists and as good as it is from them. And it's okay, yeah, they made a ton of money off Goat Simulator, of course they did, but
and their other games.
It's so different and so more precise than any of that. And kudos for the performance.
Even on my H&R system, turned down to medium settings, it still ran pretty good.
Your big setup didn't really tax it.
I mean, you can definitely tell that it is stressing my system. Like, you can hear it.
Oh, right.
You can hear the fans going. It gets warm in my room. But it definitely does still run at a decent frame rate on medium. So,
Oh yeah, but it's yet to get the full Zach, I suppose. The full factorial.
Well, yeah, that's the trick. Yeah. That's the trick with those kind of games, of course, is like, it's fine to render a couple of smelters and a couple of conveyor belts, but what about when you've got hundreds and it's all built up and you're looking directly at it and there's 100 different items trundling around?
The belts?
And that's the test. I mean, you can clearly see that it has, well, because it's Unreal Engine, I guess this just comes with the system, but you can see where, like, the draw distance thing, where, like, when things go a certain distance away, the frame rate just goes down.
Oh, right. Does that animation drop thing?
Yeah.
So it's a really weird. I mean, it makes sense in some circumstances, that frame rate drop thing, but I don't really like it. Like, I don't know. To me, that I that's a form of LOD. I'm not that happy with.
It does look kind of weird.
It's when they use it on. I think it's more egregious when they use it on like organic animation, like people walking, for instance, and it downgrades the frame rate of that. I think it looks really ugly.
It's like always like what Nintendo did in Odyssey, where like the dudes in New Donk City when they're far away.
Yeah, that was quite noticeable there. I mean, I guess it works. Like, I'm surprised it worked. Like, I'm surprised it saves as much power as it must do. Like, for people to still use that as an LOD strategy. Maybe animation's expensive. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what. Like, I don't even know what it is even doing. It's not like it's loading a different model, is it? I guess it might be.
I mean, it might be doing that too. It's probably doing an LOD reduction.
Actual LOD.
Yeah.
But is that like that one model just tied to? Is it just like low poly and low frame rate model that it's loading?
I assume, yeah. The two are probably tied together.
Yeah.
For ease,
probably. Yeah. And weirdly, for this alpha test, they apparently left in I would call it the whole map, but it might not be complete because there definitely seem to be some relatively unfinished areas. But there's this huge map you could explore miles out away from where you can do anything useful. It's like the occasional resources that you could never possibly use because you don't have the tech, and there's none of the regular resources way out there. But there is stuff to, different environments and weird little crash drop pods and the occasional animal. Pet the lizard doggo.
Get your carapace.
I did eventually work out how to pet the lizard doggo. That's the important thing.
Please tell me it's actually called a doggo.
Yeah, that's what its name is, the lizard doggo.
Yeah.
It didn't seem to do anything. So you could, as a one slot inventory that you could open up, and it's like the button prompt changes to be like, check if the lizard doggo has found anything, but it never did.
Huh. Interesting. Satisfactory.
Yep.
So far,
living up
to its name. Yeah.
the game whose name reviews itself.
Yep.
It's convenient.
I mean, what if it becomes better than its name?
Yeah, what if it gets too good?
Yeah.
I remember that being a review for the movie Superbad, but that film was actually
Superbad's all right.
Yeah,
I mean that would be the thing where if it does get too good for its name, that's just the alternate angle for like review titles. Then, where it would just be like, you have Satisfactory, and then the review header will be like,
more than
exceptional or something.
Yeah.
You just do that. If it is only Satisfactory, it will probably just say yes.
One word review. Yes. Pros, cons. Nah, none of that needed. Yes.
So that was mostly the two important things that I played.
Cool. It's time for Rob then.
Hi.
What have you been playing, man?
I've been sinking myself into some more God of War, of course.
Boy.
I mean, I'm not a bit of a bitty couple of weeks, so I haven't played as much of it as I would have liked, but been doing I wanted to talk about the Valkyries.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, they're obviously they're insanely hardcore compared to everything you're doing in the main game, right?
Kinda, but you come across them and they're presented like normal boss fights, right? So they're not like, unlike some of the others. So I'm sort of permanently irritated by finding purple guys, because it seems to be all I'm doing at the minute. The game actively goes out of its way to encourage you to explore, and all I'm doing is finding purple dudes, and it's like,
Like, I did a couple of times, like, kill the purple dudes, and then later on in the game realized that was stupid, and I should probably have waited, because, I mean, that was dumb. Because I ended up jipping it, right?
Yeah, you come across a couple of them that are just like, oh, this guy's going to literally murder me in a single touch.
I mean, I remember there was
spawned three of them.
Earlier on, there were the ice guys or whatever, and I didn't have the weaponry for the ice guys because the axe doesn't work on them. So I just fought them for ages without the axe. You know, beat them up, and it took forever, and I did it. And then
there's definitely a couple of cases where I felt close to being able to pull that off. Like
it's possible.
What annoys me the most is that they introduced the dwarfen favors fairly early.
Yeah.
But those favors, like I forget which one it is. Like Fafnir's storeroom, I think. Like the second room of that. The first room was hard but durable, and the second room is like purple's way above what I got. It's like, oh great,
really?
Well, you've just told me to go do this thing that I can't do. And I still can't do, as it turns out, quite a long time later. I go back to it, and the guys are still purple, and it's like,
weird.
Wow, this seems like badly timed. Like, you asked me to do these things like way too early. And I'm coming across quite a lot of that. Like, I don't think the game should encourage you to explore as early as it does, because it doesn't seem balanced for that.
Right.
Which is a bit of a shame, because it's like I do want to go exploring. There's like,
you found any like dragons?
I found one.
Yeah.
I found Fafnir himself,
because they're actually possible. Like, hard.
But it was hard, and I didn't really like that bit, and this will play into my sort of Valkyrie storyline a little bit here, in that I think when you end up with combat scenarios as big as Fafnir or as big as the Valkyries, it highlights all of the great and all of the worst elements of that combat system all at once.
Right.
So, like, I don't know, those one of those Valkyrie fight, the first one I found, I thought was challenging, but learnable. At least there was a pattern to it. There was a way of beating her that you could figure out, and most of the time it was me just getting the timing a bit wrong. It felt different to most of the other fights, which is which really frustrated me a little bit. In that, I don't know, like normally when you see the red mark, right, there's like, this is a get out of the way attack. But usually doesn't matter too much about which direction you go.
Right, yeah. You just have to dodge, right?
This particular Valkyrie fight, that dodge was super specific about the direction you went, because she'd attack with one of her wings. It would have been her right arm. And if you dodged to the left, kind of going sort of like to the outside of her right arm, you'd still get hit in its range. But if you dodged left, so you were going to her hand that, in the direction of her hand that wasn't attacking, you'd be absolutely fine and have loads of room to work with for a counter. And it's like, okay, this is the first time you've sort of introduced to me that directional dodging is important. And I've not seen that anywhere else in the game before, so it's like, that's a bit annoying. And it also highlighted the fact that, some of the timings on those flashes do vary between enemies. It's like, just because the flash appears at a certain point doesn't mean this is the moment you should parry, or this is the moment you should dodge. It's like they're just a warning. It's like they actually mean nothing about when you should do the action, which again I don't think I'd come across that being too different before. Like, I don't know, I guess the minions just always like, I'm about to do a thing, now I'm doing the thing, with kind of roughly the same timing, which hasn't been true of the Valkyrie fights.
Right.
Things have changed a bit. Or at least that's how it feels. And it's so, the first one was kind of fine. It was difficult, but I got there in the end pretty quickly, pretty satisfying. The second one, oh good God. Right. I think it's Kana was the name of it, or Kara. I'm not sure, one of the two. And so she likes to. She has a lot of ranged attacks, like fires feathers that hurt. That was a sort of a quick ranged attack. She has 2 flying magic ranged attacks, one of which seems to cause a swarm of yellow things that are blockable, but only blockable. So you have to have your shield out, and there's loads of them that goes bang, 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 and will do tons of damage if you're not shielding at any point during that attack. And an unblockable ranged, like, circle of doom thing that she throws at you that is really fast. And you have to dodge almost immediately as after seeing the red flash, otherwise it's going to do half your damage, like half your health in an instant. And it's like, okay, fine. On its own, none of that is particularly troublesome. I was struck, but she also summons like an increasingly difficult army of Draugr.
Oh, great!
So you've got this swarm of stuff attacking you whilst you're trying to pay attention to these hyper damaging attacks going on that get. And the swarm gets increasingly larger and annoying, like, so they'll start throwing in like shielded enemies, which obviously put you in a bit of stun lock if you accidentally hit. Meaning you then can't defend against some of the nastier stuff coming your way. And then they'll throw also in like the Draugr that throw fire at you from afar. So the whole fight becomes a bit of a cluster, far too quick. Just like, okay, there's way too much going on. And so you end up not being able to see the cues you need to do the job at hand, to the point where I actually think the cues break occasionally. So like the her 2 attacks that she has when she goes up in the sky and does her ranged things, the magic one that's like a swarm of yellow bees doesn't actually have a flash because it's not parryable. So that's fine. It's like if there's no flash, it's like get your shield out and hold for a while. If there's the red flash, you need to dodge. Now, I don't think that red flash happens all the time when the screen is starting to become filled with stuff. Or maybe it gets obscured by all the stuff. Either way, it becomes like, oh, well, that was the super powerful ranged attack. I didn't see the flash, and I just stood there with my shield out and took it like a chump. Which is like super frustrating. Like crazy frustrating. It's like I had no way of knowing that was coming. Also, I kind of wish there was like a friendly fire damage system, because if there's a swarm of them all just in front of you and the Valkyrie's in front of you doing its wide wing attack as well, they can just sort of swing through her and still hit you, which is annoying because they don't get hit by her big attacks, or they don't get knocked out of the way by her big attacks, and that feels unfair as well. Because you can't see it coming because they're sort of behind her or behind other enemies, and so that's annoying. I don't know. There's a lot of these sort of like little things started compounding upon themselves in that one fight. And there are things that I was clearly not skilled enough to deal with, basically.
Right.
I've not had much experience with massive crowd control.
I mean,
they're fire-based enemies, so I've got the Blades of Chaos, but like the Blades of Chaos aren't particularly effective against fire people. So
no, they're not. They're for the ice people, aren't they? Yeah. Yeah,
and the attacks take a while to actually execute. So if I needed to react in a hurry, that's not a great weapon for that.
No.
And it's so the whole thing kind of compounded in this kind of mess of stuff. However, when you're in a flow and it is all sort of going your way, and it's like, okay, I haven't had to use my rage yet, I haven't been hurt too much, I'm managing to shepherd everyone into a funnel at the moment that is kind of okay, but I might be at risk from the friendly fire, for them swinging through each other, but that might be all right if I'm using my ranged axe at time and things like that. There is a way of dealing with it.
There's always a way, yeah.
And it may have taken me 2 hours of bashing my head against it, but I did eventually start to get it and make progress.
I mean, but
none of it felt like,
it
didn't feel like I was solving the puzzle particularly.
It's more like your dexterity or whatever of learning the rhythms of it, right? Rather than the puzzle.
Not even that. It's just like I'm learning how to deal with the nonsense of some of those systems. I'm learning how to not be screwed over by the stuff that I don't think should be there, like the swinging through other characters and awkward stun locking at times that stop you from blocking, and it's the stuff that doesn't feel particularly fair to you. It's like, well, I couldn't see that. How could I have possibly dealt with that kind of stuff? But you end up figuring out ways of cheesing it effectively. It's like, oh, I've maxed out my wolf summon power, which basically stun locks everything around me for a while. Awesome. So it's like, so this looks like a bad situation. I'll just break out the wolves and run away for a bit. That kind of stuff. I'm not really.
That kind of works. Yeah.
Or I'll use the rage just to thin the crowd a little bit rather than go for the boss. Stuff like that. And it's like, but I don't know. Without the crowd, or without so much of a crowd, I think that fight would have been a lot better, and you still could have made it difficult.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, all the Valkyries are like optional late game things, aren't they? Or they're not late game. You can get to them anytime, I suppose.
Yeah. I think they're. But as far as I can tell, I think they're balanced for whatever you're at that moment.
Are they? Okay, right, fine.
It was a long fight, but it didn't feel unjustly long. They didn't feel any longer than any of the other bosses I've done.
Makes
if you
sense.
Know what I mean.
But I guess by the time you've finished the main game, you've built up skills that you can then use on basically the things you're describing that then you can then use on the Valkyries.
Yeah, maybe. But as I said, like it could have done with some the enemies could like attack with a certain cadence, so they can't throw like 3 attacks one after the other.
Right.
So one of them stuns you because you were trying to shield it, and then the other 2 just land their hits just because you're
straight
stunned.
In. Yeah.
And I wish the runic attacks had either had you could be knocked out of them, or that you couldn't be damaged while using them. One of the 2. Because if I fire off a whirlwind runic, for instance, and spin around for a while, if someone tries to attack me whilst I'm doing that, it doesn't look like I've been hurt because I'm just doing that attack and I'm just spinning and everything's fine. But yeah, you do. You take the same amount of damage as you would as if that just hit you straight on whilst you're in the middle of that attack animation, and there's no indication that that's happening. It took me a little while. I thought that was a get out of jail approach for a while.
Right. So you were like invulnerable while you were doing it.
Yeah, I thought it's like, this is fine because I'm not getting knocked out of it. And then during that boss fight, it became apparent that it's like, oh no, I'm really not fine if I do this. I've lost half my health and I don't know why. Kind of thing. So I it's kind of a bummer because boy did it feel good to beat that thing. Like it really did. Like the moment I came away from it was just like, yeah, man, I'm a badass. I got that done.
Yeah.
And I don't really get that with boss fights all that often. It's like, I don't know, I came away from that thing like, yeah, man, I'm the daddy right now. But in the same breath, it's like, yeah, but those systems though, like God of War 2 or whatever you want to call it, is probably going to kick some serious ass if they clean this up a little bit. I don't know. It was kind of a like, just don't do big crowds. I don't think it's suited to it.
Yeah, crowd control does get pretty tricky. Like, I think the Blades of Chaos do help with certain kind of enemies, but not the kind you were facing there.
Yeah. And that was probably, it's entirely intentional. They wanted to make it tricky, but it just, it was tricky in a sort of unfair way. So they kind of drew me out. And I had that same problem with the Fafnir fight a little bit, where there's just too many enemies from too many different angles that it was just actually kind of too difficult to deal with. And then you'd get set on fire by the dragon, and then for some reason lightning would come from the sky whilst you're being flamed, and whilst there's a poison revenant firing things at you. When it all compounds, I think it falls apart. Like I don't think the systems necessarily always work together.
My tactic in those things was the power of running away.
Yeah,
basically.
Find a hole and wait for them to come to you.
Yeah, I did a lot of sprinting, running towards them, attacking, and then running away. I like to upgrade the sprint to attack, to strong attack stuff, so that I can sprint right up to someone and smash them in the face and then run away.
Yeah, I do think I need to find a better strategy for some of that, for sure. Yeah, and I've been through Helheim. That was a cool sequence, and some of the story stuff that's now coming out is pretty neat, and the weird childish nature of the Sons of Odin is kind of fun in a stupid way.
Yeah,
it's cool. Like I don't know. I'm really digging the like story presentation.
The lore
of
stuff
it. Like,
is really
still,
good.
yeah, it's all really like Mim is awesome. Like, just remains awesome.
Yep.
Some of the stuff Brock says in particular is just like surprisingly cool at times.
Yeah,
you're just like, oh, why did you? Oh no, that came out of nowhere. All right, but that's funny. It's the presentation and the storytelling. I'm still really into. But it's just when the combat's just that little overwhelming still, and maybe
so have you
maybe
been
you're
to
right.
the bit
Maybe
where
the
boy gets like really irritating for a while, and he gets really angsty for a while.
I think I know what you're referring to, but I think I'm on the like I've had hints of it, but I don't think it's fully kicked in.
He gets pretty angsty, yeah.
Well, he's. Okay, yeah,
no spoilers, yeah.
I guess I can't really talk about it.
So that's fine.
Well, yeah, that's.
It's been a while since that game came out.
There's a lot of hints that there's going to be more than just the axe.
It's pretty obvious, isn't it? If you know God of War, that they can't do it completely without those.
Yeah, they're clearly hinted.
It's the introduction of the Blades of Chaos is awesome. However, they're
super
not
well
nearly
done.
As cool. The axe is clearly better.
Yeah, the axe is a whole lot of fun to use.
Yeah.
So plugging away at that. I've just been picking at a lot of other things. Like I went back to Grip for a bit because they've made a few updates to it, and it's I think it's a marginally better feeling game than it was the last time I played it, but only marginally. It still has. I think some of its track design is still far too busy, and I have seen a couple of tracks that I never saw before. In like I may have just reached them in the campaign or whatever, but that game is better when it's not trying to do too much at once. It has the God of War problem a little bit. It's like when it actually pares it down a bit to it, so it's a bit more like the track design is actually a bit more F-Zero-y in a strange way. It actually plays better. It feels better. It feels like more of a precision racer rather than a game that's trying to screw you over constantly.
Right.
There's something about like it's very physics driven, and some of that doesn't always make for the most fun experience. If you know what I mean, like the physics are often too realistic at times. Like the way the cars like start to, I don't know, you can fishtail a little bit too realistically, and when you're just trying to get control of your car, it's like, no, come on, and it's like it's doing like for an arcade racer, it's doing a little bit too much of the realism in the sliding.
Yeah,
and or like when you get hit by a missile, for instance, it's like physics just takes over, and you're actually being flown through the air properly. Like you're not just being.
It's not just an animation.
Yeah, it's not a canned Mario Kart animation or any of that stuff. It's like momentum has been thrown on you, and it's like when you land, you're probably facing the wrong direction and at a complete stop, and you've got to accelerate realistically to get back up to top speed. So generally, if you're getting hit by a rocket, like get used to seeing last place turn up. It's because it's going to be that bad of an impact. Generally, it's a weird thing. It remains a weird thing, but it feels good when you have a good race, like classically, like if you manage to tame the awkward control, it does fit. That is pretty satisfying. It's a bit like Vanishing Point on the Dreamcast, right? Its control was weird and swingy and had a lot of body roll, and so it was quite easy to put those cars into a slide, but taming it felt real good. And it's that to a bit of that feeling is there. So I don't know. I might plug away at it still every now and then. They've got a weird award up on their Steam page. It's like second best indie game from something. It's like, okay, it's a somewhat strange award to give out.
Yeah, but that's what that Steam Awards section always is on every game.
I don't think it was
like here's any old award we can possibly find.
Yeah,
shove it in there.
Here's something we got from somewhere. So there was that. What else have I been playing? I'm still plugging away at Smash, but not a huge amount to add there, I suppose.
God damn.
Making progress. Still haven't finished World of Light, but it's just there's just so much to it. I suppose played a tiny bit more Into the Breach, only to lose at the last boss.
Yep.
Frustratingly, just because of an enemy I didn't like. Well, I think it put me into a couple of like impossible situations where I just couldn't avoid grid damage, and classically, I didn't have enough grid damage to survive both of those occasions. And like in one of the phases, I kind of sacrificed a bit of grid for a bit of mech damage, which, as it turned out, was the wrong decision for the later phases. But how was I to know that?
No, not on the first try.
Yeah.
Because particularly in, I guess, the second half of that boss battle, there's like the events that happen where it's like each subsequent turn a new thing happens, and once you sort of know that, you're like, okay, you need to prepare for this. Like, this is the turn that the tentacle scions falls, this is the turn that the ceiling falls in, this is the turn that the big trench opens up.
Yeah.
So once you've been through that at least once, you're sort of slightly more prepared for how things are going to flow through that last battle.
I think, because it was the first time I'd actually reached it, like, there was a little bit of too much of the unknown going on, and I suffered for it. Which it did feel, I know that's what the game is about, and I know it's the exact same feeling I got from FTL. But boy, it takes that run was a long run, right? I did all of the islands. I did all of the islands and did pretty well on all of the islands, and not a perfect run by any means, but was doing pretty good. And then get to that and have it all shattered and have like a multi-hour run come to an end and have nothing to show for it.
Yes, but that's what you always say about those games.
I know, but it doesn't sit with me very well. I kind of hate it.
It's not nearly as bad in Into the Breach because it.
No, it's bad for me because of how long I am a really slow player of this. It takes me 8. I pass out the turns.
It is a lot of tactical thinking.
Yeah,
like, you do take time.
I'll easily spend 20 minutes a turn on like towards the last couple of islands.
But it is like partitioned. It's not like in the FDL where you have a run and it's a run, and then you feel bad for losing 2 hours because that 2 hours was the previous 2 hours that you just lived through. Whereas Into the Breach is like you can do one mission and then go away for a while and come back.
And that has been how I've been playing it. I've been like doing a little bit like, I've got quarter of an hour before I've got to leave the house to go pick up Gnome for something. I can get a turn in.
Yeah.
That kind of thinking. So I've been plugging away at it that way, and it's like it is really good. I don't think it's like I get like the same heck yeah vibes that I get from finishing a hard fight that I do from God of War, for instance, out of it.
Well, nice.
I don't get that adrenaline rush out of it, but it's towards the end of that campaign when I'm like powered up and I'm able to deal with enemies that are way stronger than you, and you're just sort of out strategizing.
You're doing cool things, not like you're not just big damage numbers. You're tactical.
It is fairly satisfying to come out of a fight where at the start of it, it's like, oh, this has gone real bad, and then somehow you come out unscathed, and it's like, well, all right, I'd turn that around.
Yeah,
that was cool.
You load into a mission and you're like, the first wave of enemy spawns, and you're like, man, there's no way I'm going to avoid damage. This is going to be terrible. I'm just going to have to grind through it. And then you like pull some ridiculous maneuvers off, and you're like, oh, this all turned out perfectly well.
I think it's So I have that thing that I do with a lot of turn-based games where you come up with a plan. And then the moment you fire the first shot, something doesn't quite work out the way you planned. And you're like, oh no, what have I done?
Yeah, you do have to that's why that game is that's the kind of game that you can't stream because you spend 20 minutes on the same screen. Because you can't even at least you can undo the movements and that kind of thing. So you do have some ways to move things around to see what might happen, but you still have to do a lot of it just in your head where you're this is going to do this and this, and then I'll need to do this in this order.
It's highly easy to mispredict a move as well, or just forget one tiny detail that then screws the entire plan up. I don't know, a conveyor belt. You'll forget the conveyor belts move at a certain time.
Yeah, because you have to.
No,
you definitely have to pay attention to the turn order thing.
Yeah,
that little pop up is so critical.
Yeah,
when you're doing really advanced strategies, you have to know exactly what order. Because sometimes,
I needed that enemy
the
in the way
happens first, and sometimes the explosion happens last.
Yeah, I needed that enemy precisely in the way, but he's no longer in the way, and so I'm getting hit or something. It's like, damn it. Yeah, little things like that. It's a game about the little things, and it does that very, very well. it just doesn't mean it has to feel great for me half the time. Yeah, it'll be something that's probably permanently installed on my system that I just tap into every now and then.
Yes. What, like, I think it's fairly clear just from your first run through, even that, like, it's not as hard as FTL, right?
Oh no.
That last boss does seem manageable.
It's, like it. I think I've already put more time into this than I did on my own playing FTL. Just with,
the FTL, the last boss, you kind of have to know what it does before you play it, which is,
you have to spec to it, and it's
Into the Breach, kind of.
Sort of.
You don't have to spec so much in Into the Breach, but you, once you know what's going to happen, you have a better time of the last fight for sure.
Yeah, because it throws you a few lifelines, even if it doesn't explicitly say. It's like you get repaired, don't you, going into the various phases, and things like that. Even if it's not explicitly part of it, it's
you get a second bomb. That's a bit cheap.
Well, I don't even. Yeah,
you wouldn't know that.
I haven't even got to that. I don't think.
If the bomb that you're trying to protect gets deployed, there's a second one, and they don't tell you that. And it's like that's a bit cheap because that seems like a failure state.
Right. So you could actually strategically let it go.
Yeah, you could strategically let an enemy just kill the first one.
Interesting. That's a cool thing.
Yes.
I'm struggling to think what else is really. I'm sure there's something, but I just can't think of it right now that I've been doing. Played a bit more Amplitude. It's just stop there, I guess. Oh, we played a good few hours of Dr. Drago's Madcap Chase.
Yes, with Chippers again.
Yeah, of course.
Chippers wanted to play Drago, and so we got into Drago. And
did you tape it?
No. We were just playing it for funsies this time.
Okay. And of course, as usual with Drago, you're never going to finish that
game. No. Well, we got like 10% of the way through our game.
Wow.
We'll return to it.
No, we won't. Well, maybe we might.
We might do, yeah.
But we're never going to finish it. Mainly because you said there were 100 turns.
Well, I didn't set it big enough so we actually end up with West Europe open. East Europe, that way around. Which the game, for some reason, locks off forever.
It's the Cold War, that's why.
What you been playing, Dan?
Still playing Spider-Man. Carrying on with that. Did the bit with Grand Central Terminal. That was kind of cool.
Oh, okay.
Or GCT, as they kept calling it for some reason. GCT. I guess that's like New York's, the way New Yorkers talk about Grand Central.
Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. It was one of the better stealth sections, I guess. But but still not a highlight particularly from it. You know, when the game does that mode, that's not really.
It's like, oh no, I have to do this bit. But at least it had the kind of Spider-Man, coming down and grabbing people bit mechanic.
There were bits of it, yeah. And it wasn't one of the harder one of those either.
No, it wasn't too hard. And then the kind of fight with Mr. Negative at the end is kind of cool. I liked the stupid reference to Spider-Man with the subway car. That was kind of good.
Yes, that's awesome.
So still good. Really good game. Enjoying it. And then I did what I said I was going to do, and I played some Civilization.
Ah, cool.
Including, but what I hadn't realized when I went to play it was I was like, oh, okay, well I can get the expansion, and then it will be a new, I'll have new features and stuff. That'll be cool. I don't mind paying for an expansion. That's fine. Then I realized that I had to buy 2 expansions, and it's like it costs more than a freaking game to buy. If you want Civilization and you want it all the way up to date, it's like, and you're starting from scratch, it's like £100 or something.
Oh wow! So they haven't put out a bundle yet.
No, there was no bundle. I think there's a bundle with the last year's expansion maybe on Steam, but there's no bundle. And anyway, I already had the game, so I needed to buy both.
I think a season pass.
Yeah, well, I don't know if I want that, but because there's other DLC as well. Like you can get you can buy random civs. Yeah.
They're split sort of more piecemeal, are they?
That was like extra DLC. But each expansion comes with a bunch of new civs as well. there's tons of civs now, if you got them all. But so I got Rise and Fall and the new one. What's it called?
Storm.
Storm, Gathering Storm, or something.
Heroes of the Storm.
Heroes of the Storm. Yeah. So wasn't expecting it to be, but I thought I'll blow it. I'll just get the full thing. But still, if you're starting from scratch, that's kind of a pain to get all the mechanics.
Yeah.
You have to wait for a Steam sale.
You have to wait an extra long time for the prices to come down.
Yeah, you have to wait for ages.
City Skylines did with its expansions, where like when the new expansion comes out, the previous expansion starts going on a slight sale, and then the further into the past that expansion becomes, the more the sales go up.
Yeah, I think it was like 35 quid for the new expansion and 25 quid for last year's expansion or something like that.
That's a lot.
I know.
It's very expensive for expansion.
Yeah, it's expensive, but they do put a lot of effort into them, and they review very well. I think it does improve the base game a lot, and it is a massively complex game. With a lot of features going on, and the expansions do add features.
It does sound like they've mixed it up. It's not just like the normal Civ routine, I suppose, of like where the expansions are kind of what you expected to be there in the first place. They're sort of
because the original game had quite a few like the original game had like espionage and religion and all things that used to be expansions, right?
The things that got added to 5.
Yeah, anyway. So the base game had that stuff, and now there's a bunch of other stuff. Like obviously this new one has the climate change mechanic, which hasn't kicked in my game yet, but it's got like natural disasters and stuff, which are kind of cool because they're like double-edged, because like so flooding will damage your stuff on the river banks, but it will also increase fertility so you'll get more food the next time around, stuff like that.
Yeah, so when they happen, they're not so much of a killer.
No, it's not quite as bad as SimCity, where it's like, oh shit. But you do have like, and it does warn you, like build stuff right by a volcano, there might be a problem. However, volcanic soil is like really fertile, so you get loads of food or whatever. It's not always fertility, but that is one of the things. Soil fertility.
This just might go bad at some point. Just so you know.
I mean, it probably will over the span of an entire game of Civ, right?
Yes, it's safe to assume that a volcano is probably going to erupt at some point.
At some point, yeah.
I wonder if you get more scientific, you can get like forecasts when that's going to happen, right? Because you get better.
Yeah,
if they put that in, like to be like, oh, we've learned seismology. So
I don't know yet. I haven't got that far. I'm in the kind of, where am I?
That sounds like a Civ thing to do.
Probably around Renaissance time in my game, because I usually go for not epic length, but like not marathon length, but maybe the one I go for decent length games. I think because otherwise everything is too quick.
I like the good medium. I like the normal setting for Civ, like straight in the middle seems ideal.
Yeah. Well, I often find that I play through hundreds and hundreds of years, and I only have two military dudes, which is a bit ridiculous. I still think that even at this point, like I think I've said it before, but I think I would like it if cities had a separate unit queue and building queue. So that, I thought that would be cool. But anyway, it's got a lot of other cool stuff. So probably the best thing is they've replaced the whole the system that figured out your reputation on warmongering has been replaced by like a grievance points system, which is way better. Because previously it was like if you were attacked and then you fought back and then you took over some enemy cities, then other civilizations would just consider you a warmonger like almost forever, which is really annoying and stupid. So now you get like grievance points if you get attacked, which you can then kind of spend on retaliating, and you even get them if they attack your allies and stuff like that. So you could even, if your enemies, you've got peace with your enemy for now, and then they attack your ally, you can come to your ally's aid and then spend your grievance points, which is quite good. That's a start anyway. Yeah, basically. So you build up grievances, which is kind of cool. I think the AI is definitely improved, but I don't know whether that just gets patched into the base game or that comes with the expansions. But certainly the new mechanics come with the expansions. Yeah. And it has the previous expansion, Rise and Fall, has this kind of ages system where you, like, if you get enough like cool points, in your age. The next age becomes like a golden age, or you can go into a dark age. Yeah,
right. They had
so they made it a bit more of a system rather than the golden age just being like something that you accumulated.
Yeah,
randomly.
it's a system.
Was it you earned them through culture? Was it in 5 culture points?
Yeah,
right.
It was some kind of running total of culture points where when you hit the number, you just get a golden age for a couple of turns, and then the total that you need for the next one just goes up.
Yeah.
Right. So this is definitely a different mechanic completely, because the points for this seem to be based on kind of milestones, like which seem to be various things. Like at the start, it can be like defeating a barbarian village near your capital or something like that, or it can be building a wonder or something like that, or it can be researching a certain civic or stuff like that. So certain events across a broad range of different possible things can give you points towards the golden age or avoiding the dark age. So that's cool. I'm playing as Canada.
Blame Canada.
Yeah, blame Canada. Yeah, so yeah.
How are those? What was it? Was it the Norwegians or the Swedes that were always just total assholes in Civ 5?
Well, there's always some total asshole civilizations.
I mean, they were the worst though, because they were the ones that would like lure you in. They were like the prime asshole, because they weren't just like straight up like we're bad like the Japanese or whatever. They were always angry, or Genghis Khan's like always angry or whatever. It's like we're gonna beat you up. No, these guys though, like you're our best friends. We love you. Now we're going to murder you.
I mean, the one in Civ 6 is I think the Sumerians. They just have an early game military unit that is really cheap to build, and there's no counter. So they just always invade immediately, and that's very annoying if you spawn next to them. Obviously it's fine later on, but it makes the early game really annoying.
That always seemed like in 5 that was what Greece was meant to be, because they had their hoplites or whatever, their game military unit.
And the Japanese samurai in the sort of Middle Ages as well.
But then, like in Greece's case, for some reason, they just sucked.
Right.
Almost every game I ever saw with Greece, they'd immediately declare war on whoever and then get eliminated.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's not really in the character of actual classical Greece, is it? Who were extra good at philosophy and stuff like that. Who would be?
That's because their leader was in Civ 5 was Alexander the Great, so it was all about conquering stuff. It was his profile.
I think in Civ 6, the Greeks have some preoccupation with city-states.
Right. Yeah, that kind of makes sense.
Which kind of makes sense. Also, there's still, I think this was true in the base game. There's too many city-states, I think. I think you probably dial it, but by default, there's a lot of city-states in my opinion. And it's like, I don't know, they get in the way a bit. I think they're a bit annoying. I think they're a cool idea, and they're kind of cool. But
are they slightly less annoying to deal with?
Yeah, they were so needy in 5.
They're pretty straightforward. You just have to assign envoys to them, and you can influence them through envoys and also sort of proximity and stuff, and you can become Caesarian or whatever over them quite relatively easily if they're close by you, so you don't have to worry about them too much. And if you trade with them, it gives you quite a lot of a boost to your economy, which is good. And also they give you little missions.
Yeah, you had to effectively outbid the other players, and it was like whoever gave us the most stuff, we allied with you.
Yeah.
Now.
And the other thing that sucked about them in 5 was because of the old style diplomacy, it was just you could never really attack a city-state because that just gave you such a bad reputation.
Yeah. I think that might still be true, which is annoying because they get in the way, right? They take up space, and you can't get their resources unless you would. You can influence them completely so that you can even conscript their armies if you have enough influence over them, right? So you can take over their armies and control them if you need them for a war or something like that, which is quite good. But you can't really get rid of them, and there's just there's just a lot of them, and it kind of complicates things when you're trying to deal with
you just want to take them over. And
yeah, I kind of want that space, and I want those cities to join my empire. And it's funny because the normal civs cities now, you can actually influence them and eventually take them over just through soft power proximity, kind of like settlers style.
Yeah, it always had that with the culture or
religious strategy.
Yeah, but you had to. Yeah, but I think it's now much more prominent anyway. You can see there's one of those views, or if you select a city, you can see where its influence is coming from certain tiles and is pointing towards, and you can see the kind of battle over it. And they can become independent cities and then get taken over by their neighbor, depending on the influence.
So the thing I always kind of wanted in the Civ games that I never felt was particularly well realized in them is that, okay, so like the key to success has kind of always been go down one main route, right? Focus.
Well, theoretically,
get super focused on a single route.
But if you focus on, like, I don't know, if you focus on culture and then you get invaded, then you're in trouble, right?
Yeah. I mean, this has always been the problem. Like you go, like, even if you're spreading out a little bit, like, okay, normally the strategy, right, is primarily science, because it's.
But the thing about the science victory is that is a bit weird, is that, like, really it's production victory, right? Because to build the freaking spaceship, you need a whole bunch of cities, and it takes ages.
Yeah, it is production focused, but yeah, you go down that road. But then there comes a point sometimes in the uber late game, if that's the direction you're going, like, say, where Gandhi would always suddenly be like, oh yeah, by the way, I'm doing this too, and you'd be like, oh no, and I'm behind, now what do I do?
Right.
And it becomes almost impossible to adapt.
Right. Well, I mean, you can see from the start where you are on for each victory in Civ 6. There's a tracker that you can open at any time, and you can see what ranking you are for each victory type at any time.
That's interesting.
And it gives you, like, it shows you, like, unmet civilization if you've never come into contact with them, and stuff like that.
It did still kind of exist in 5, although I don't think some of those trackers were all that useful. Like the one for the science victory, it didn't really track anything up until, like, you've landed on the moon or whatever, the space race.
Oh, really?
It didn't really give you much indication up until you hit that point.
In this one, in Civ 6, even on the tech tree, which scrolls left to right, you can see your position on the bottom relative to other players as well, like on a scroll bar, which is quite good.
Interesting. Before, you could only really estimate that by, like, your score. It was basically the one graph that you had to try and guess how well you were doing compared to everyone.
It's quite fine-grained in this one. But this was in the base game of Civ 6. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, because I always, like, was like, you'd put, like, it'd be like 50 hours into an epic match or something, only at the last second to be told, oh, by the way, that thing you were going for, you're losing now.
I mean, in Civ 6,
you had no way of knowing up until that point, where it's just like, oh, okay, right, great.
I mean, it was my own ignorance, but I totally got defeated by religion without looking, because I was just ignoring all the missionaries going everywhere, and I kind of forgot that I could lose that way. And then, I was like, I don't care about religion. I'm working towards my science victory. And then it was like, game over. God damn it.
Yeah, that stuff's it's easily done, but it's kind of well, it's like, if you're focused on the one thing and someone is focused on the other thing, it's like, what is the counter to those things? Like, I never really wrapped my head around those particularly.
Yeah.
In like, if you are getting, like, religiously overrun in that, or culturally overrun in some way, it's just like, one, how do you notice, and two, now what do I do to actually cut back on that?
I guess you can fight back, or you can kind of race them to a different victory, I suppose. I don't really know
it's super hard, and I never. I mean, that's clearly part of the game, but it's like, it's just, never really figured it out.
Yeah, well, me either, to be honest. I mean, I'm playing with doing a small civilization this time, where I've just got, like, 6 or 7 cities, and I'm just building them up and see how I go, rather than being aggressive. So I'm just seeing how that goes this time around. But I'll probably lose the ultimate match, but still, it's fun while it lasts.
It's about the journey.
Kind of.
Yeah. It was a fun 60 hours to get there.
Yeah, they definitely improved the game, but pricey.
Yeah, surprisingly so. Yeah. Really,
definitely wait for that Steam sale.
I guess they have a niche market of players that always play it.
Definitely. No problem.
People who Civ fans tend to go back to a Civ at some point.
Yeah, I reckon so.
Like we always have, I suppose. I've skipped entries here and there, but Civ 5 drew me in.
6 is a real good one, for sure. And you get more Sean Bean, although he gets annoying after a while, in my opinion. I think I prefer Leonard Nimoy from Civilization 4.
Nimoy was good. get advisors?
I know.
Like those old videos that were like
the clock speed to the double microchip, sir. Yeah, no. What was the last game with advisors in? SimCity had advisors, didn't it?
The last game? Well, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. There wasn't really. I don't know advisors in 4, was there? It was only 3000 was the last one that had real advisors.
It's weird because you'd think with machine learning and stuff you could get much better advisors these days.
Advisors that aren't just triggered by a single event.
Yeah, maybe. That aren't just if statements. Yeah.
That just says we're doing well. We're not doing well.
Like all advisors that maybe actually have more states that are useful, unlike, for example, the old classic roads advisor in SimCity 2000, where if you're not 100% funding, he's instantly pissed.
Oh, yeah.
The only thing you get in Civ 6 is like the help lady who tells you stuff, which I'm sure you can turn off. She has a little icon that goes next to things that the game recommends you build or research or whatever. So,
yeah, because you did have those icons in 5 for like there was one for each branch. So like the military guy obviously always tells you to build units.
Yeah. It has that too, yeah. But it doesn't have a dude, it just has a symbol for military or a symbol for science. So this time around. I still don't like the way that you research and then a certain type of resource then appears on the map and it spawns like right outside or miles from your area, right? So I don't know if this is correct, but you kind of want to wait and have a settler ready for when you finish research that unveils iron or something like that, and then go over and build a city wherever that is.
Game where there's still space to take.
Yeah. No, the problem is later on, then you need niter in order to build musketmen or any kind of firearms, and that only appears later. By that point, it's quite hard to, all the city spots are taken.
You're going to be spending a lot of cash making trades.
Yeah, it's very annoying.
How is the trade? Because the AI would never trade unless it was in their favor before.
Yeah,
they didn't even try to like make a deal that perhaps they needed. But
they're constantly proposing trades. I can tell you that.
Right, so that bit hasn't changed.
No,
but there was all the Civ games that I've ever played. They would always want a trade that was nothing but swayed or balanced towards them. Like even if it was if you're desperate for a resource, you might do a bad deal, right? Because you need that resource to progress. But the AI never wanted that, or never, whether you proposed or they proposed.
You can up the ante with them to a certain extent, but not very much. Like you can't drive a very hard bargain. They almost immediately are like, no, I'm not interested anymore.
And right, so that hasn't changed.
That's still the same, yeah.
Yeah, that's a bit of a shame because it's like that's just one of the systems that always felt a little against you.
I mean, it's fine when you're like mutually trading stuff that you each need and each the other has.
Absolutely,
then it's all fine.
But
when they're like, I want your iron, and you're the only person with iron, and I'm like, I know you're going to make swords and attack me out of this iron. Go away.
Or you could be like, oh, fine, I'll give you the iron, but I know you need it from me, so I'll put the price up.
Drive up the price, yeah. You can't do it.
They will never agree to that.
You can't really push it very far, no. It's true. But I don't know,
I
don't know. I've always felt that's a bit of a flaw. It's like you're in.
Yeah.
Well, and the other trouble with it tended to be that it didn't do a very good job of weighting the value of different things.
No, not really.
But particularly between tactical resources and luxury resources.
Yeah,
because it's like those are two different kind of angles of attack. Where it's like you obviously want the luxury resources for population growth, and if you're going for culture or whatever, and the tactical ones are more for building units mostly.
Yeah, mostly.
But the weighting between them just didn't seem to register that as a civilization that might be going for culture might value the luxury ones more, so they might be willing to spend their tactical resources cheaper or whatever.
Yeah, I always wondered if they should go down the route of perhaps having some kind of actual trade market in the thing where you can put up oh hey, I'm looking for bids for this particular bit of business.
That's still not going to help you with the AI though.
No, but maybe that might add a little element of interest to it. Well, it might, it might naturally, the AI might be dumb, like intentionally made a little bit stupid and get into like, yeah, we want this bid and bid too far.
Well, you want like anonymous trades is what you really want. You want some way of brokering deals where they don't know where it's coming from.
Well, I mean, that seems a little like, you're going beyond the realms of realism there. And,
I don't know if that's necessarily beyond the realms of realism.
For whole entire governments to not know who they're dealing with, I don't know.
Well, it could be like black market third party.
A black market system. Oh well, that if it is like actually dressed up like that could be interesting. I'm selling guns to China and I didn't even realize.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that could be a really interesting. There you go, expansion tree.
Yes, cool. That's Civ.
Yeah.
I'll let you know if I finish that game, which I'm sure I will. And that's a podcast, I reckon. What have we got coming up on the old YouTube Reno?
Well, that Satisfactory, when whoever does that video,
cool,
will go up.
Check out the Star Wars Episode 1 Racer video. It was up last week.
It was a pain to edit in the end, as it turned out.
Editing all the crashes together.
It went out of sync every time.
That game still looks kind of better than it ought to be, right? I think that was the whole thing about that.
It's kind of okay.
It's like mysteriously okay. Yeah, I don't even quite like kind of the design of it. I don't know, aesthetic.
It has a nice. It's good style.
Yeah,
even though it's like quibbing from Star Wars, obviously.
Yeah, but
like their twist on it actually is kind of a bit ahead of its time in some ways. Like, I don't know, the whole repair, the part system was kind of interesting, but abusable to make the game very easy.
Yeah, that's fine though. I think it added a little extra pizzazz to it. Yeah, it didn't really need that mechanic. I thought it was kind of cool.
And once you learn, you can just push forward to go faster. Like, the whole game is pretty easy.
Yeah, for sure. Although I do remember it being like being very hard on the brakes towards the end, especially
the more complicated tracks. Once you've upgraded your pods to go really fast, it's like there's definitely a lot of hairpins.
Yeah.
Anyway, check that out. That's an old game.
There's a few notes on the YouTube vid about how you can actually try and get it to run as well, because but sometimes we do videos on old games and I'll get the odd YouTube comment about how on earth did you make this work, and it's like by the time they've asked it, I've forgotten how we made it work.
Yes.
So I've been preemptive this time.
Cool. Yeah, check out Satisfactory video coming up soon, and we'll be back in a couple of weeks with another Saladcast.
Enjoy those horns.
Season 10. Enjoy those horns. Bye.